Shall we stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance?
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is your mic on?
Hey, did everybody receive the April minutes and have a chance to look them over?
I had no issues. Do you want me to pass this?
No, does anybody need to take a look?
Oh, I
have mine.
read them online.
Okay. Does anybody have any changes or comments on the minutes?
Make the motion to approve.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. So the April 17th minutes have been approved.
You need to vote.
Oh, yes. I always forget to vote. Although I vote in every election.
That's
All in favor.
5-0. I'm going to hold you to that one.
Thank you. Okay, committee updates. We have the Friends of the Merrimack Library. Our liaison is Rick.
Yep. They met on, was it the 30th of the month. They've been putting together the bags, updated bags for the books for babies.
Oh,
And then they have, they did also vote to put in some of the money for the annual magazine ad that we had already approved half of. They put in the other half, so, well, they put in 242, which,
yeah,
that's roughly the half, yeah. So they did approve that, and, and they did a membership mailing, because they have new envelopes. I don't know if any of
yeah, I just got mine in the mail today.
they did so they have slightly different envelopes.
Mhm.
They changed the way the dues are grouped. They were a little confusing because before they had. Do you remember what the old ones said? That they had
Patron was confusing.
Yeah, patron was one of the confusing ones. So they made more understandable groups
Okay.
for dues.
Well, we encourage everyone to join the Friends. They're the supporting arm of the library and do the fundraising. So we hope that members of citizens of Merrimack will join the Friends and support the library.
And they get to shop one day early at the book sale.
And they get to shop one day early at the book sale, get a preview of everything, and take out the choice items. The book sale is
The first weekend in June.
June
That's it.
1st, and is the first on a Friday?
Yes, the first is on a Friday.
The first is on a Friday.
Because of the
Is
second.
it actually the first?
Which is
Yeah.
a pre-sale day, and are they not having their annual meeting that day as well?
Yes,
They
they
are.
are.
So the meeting is at 5:15,
Yes.
and they will have their annual meeting, and then after that, they will have the pre-sale book sale. And then the book sale is Saturday and Sunday. What are the hours on Saturday and Sunday?
Saturday's usually 9 to 2, and then Sunday's 1 to 3.
1 to 3, very good. So we hope to see everyone out there. Good. Town Center Committee Liaison is Karen.
Yeah. The Sahegan River Trail, which we were just talking about, the state has just done a cost estimate, an updated one that from prior years, and prices have seriously gone up. So part of the trail may be cut out. If we can get across the swampy area, the rest of the trail might be adequate instead of making it elaborate. So, also, the initial plan included sidewalk repair on the east side of Route 3. There's a slim possibility that the federal government will put up more money or allow us to have less scope to the project to make it narrower. So we'll see. Also, there's a transportation grant that the engine is going forward. This is for sidewalks.
Where?
Woodbury,
Oh, okay.
on Woodbury Street. Winter Carnival, the Town Center Committee was there, and it was, we had information and so on available to people. There was a survey on voting day that if you voted at the upper elementary school, there were some pamphlets and a questionnaire asking what citizens were interested in developing as far as the town center. And I don't know the results of that yet, but I will actually June 1st, because that's the next meeting. And we're on the town website, the Town Center Committee. So if you look for the Town Center Committee pages on the town website, there's some photos of projects, both the Sauhegan walking trails and the new steps at Abbey Griffith Park. Because there's new steps in the Town Center Committee, and I believe the Lions Club was very instrumental in those steps. So you can walk up from Daniel Webster Highway. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Development and Marketing Committee is on hiatus, as the turkey shoot is also on hiatus. First thing we'll start out with is the trustees had their retreat, their first retreat, which is usually right after the election, and we had that on May 7th and 8th. And I thought I would just go over a little bit of what happened in the retreat. Here it is. We talked a little bit about our committees. We have a building committee, personnel committee, and investment committee. The investment committee has brought forth guidelines for management of library funds, which we will talk about a little bit later. Treasurer developed a budget for the Board of Trustees for the first time, which we will go into a little bit later. The Secretary, Treasurer, and Chair will be writing up the role responsibilities unique to this board for oncoming trustees in the future. Talked about one change to the bylaw, which was something I proposed, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. Talked about developing a trustee manual specific to our board that included things that the trustees are doing in their roles that wouldn't necessarily be covered in the RSAs or in the bylaws. We made a few small procedural changes, and we also talked about how often we would be receiving our statistical information and updating our goals. And we talked a little bit about forming a marketing committee with the Friends and, of course, in coordination with the director. And also developing a new self-evaluation form for the board. Out of that, we developed several goals. I have a timeline here for those goals for everyone so that we're all on the same page about when those goals need to be met. The goals basically are transferring our accounts, implementing our new budget, writing down a few new processes we've developed, developing the treasurer brought up developing a 5-year investment plan, working on our manual, the self-evaluation form, etc. So why don't I pass this out, and that way everybody, papers so sticky. So the dates are what we talked about at the retreat, and then who's responsible for them as well. Do we have anybody have any questions about it? About the timeline? I can see that. It's perfect, just the way it is.
I'm a little curious about these dates because they don't match up with a meeting. So when are you going to get a report back?
I
June
don't know.
25, July 1.
Oh, that was what we had decided
Okay.
at the meeting, that it would be done by that time. That the accounts would all be transferred by June 15th, that we'd, Rick talked about investigating, paying for a secretary position.
Right, but
Sure,
what she's
yeah.
saying
But
is
then
it
it's
doesn't
got to be
correspond
reported
our
to the board and
meetings.
brought into this meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Because
yeah.
that deadline isn't on here either. So June.
I don't know what you
In the
mean.
July meeting, you're going to report on your June goals.
Oh, yes.
June, our
Yeah.
next meeting would be the 19th.
Yeah.
So I don't know, the two that are on me, I don't know if you want to change those from the 25th to the 19th. I could aim to have them ready for the
Well,
June.
they can always be reported at the July meeting, if they're
Okay.
not done.
Yeah, well, I'll aim to have them done by the June meeting.
Yeah, so whatever board meeting is after that date is when we'll
But you want to remember to,
put that on there as well. Okay.
on your agenda.
Oh, put it on the agenda. Oh, yes, thank you.
So, it'll go under somewhere where if you have goals, it's like, oh, there's my tickler.
Yeah,
We need to talk about
Yeah.
these things.
yeah. Okay. So, since nobody has any questions and everything is just perfect, we will move on. One of the things we did at the retreat was we review our bylaws, and I did recommend one change. I gave you the handout at that, it was on allowing the secretary position to be, suggesting amending Article 3, Section 4, to say that the position of secretary may be shared with another trustee who is not the chair or the treasurer. The purpose of this would be to possibly provide a break for the secretary, and also sharing the role may help introduce new trustees to an administrative role on the board. This is not something that has to be done. It just would provide the option for it to occur if the board so chose, or the secretary so chose. So those are my thoughts on that. Any discussion on that? Thoughts, comments?
Is that something we would vote on to change tonight?
Would you like to see it in writing?
No, I saw it, so thank you. I just didn't know if it's just a policy change and you're not going to decide who that other person is at this
No,
point. Okay.
no, it's just an option. It's not an option that has to be exercised.
Okay.
It's just there if we want to if the position, for whatever reason, needs to be job shared.
Okay.
That's all. Does not have to be.
So I guess my only question would be, you don't have to write down how that's going to be shared. You can determine that at the time that you initiate that.
Right, because the way she
Yeah.
read it, it creates
It's-
the option.
Okay.
It just creates an option.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just make
It's
sure.
not, doesn't have to be that detailed.
Okay.
Any other thoughts? Well, I move to amend Article 3, Section 4 of the trustee,
She,
I'm sorry.
Do you want it to just be the secretary job, or do you want it to be any official administrative position on the board that can be, it's an option to share?
well, there's only three positions. There's treasurer, chair, and secretary. Treasurer, you can't really share, and if the chair can't make it, the treasurer is the one who fills in for the chair.
It's hard because you have to sign accounts, and
Yeah.
Okay.
those would be hard.
That's true.
They would be hard positions to share.
Okay.
Any other comments? Okay. May I move forward?
You made the motion, so.
I move that we amend Article 3, Section 4 to say the position of secretary may be shared with another trustee who is not the chair or the treasurer. Okay. So the next item on the.
Wait a minute,
to
we
vote.
need to vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I always
And we
forget.
need a
to vote.
second.
Nobody seconded yet.
Somebody seconded. Would anybody like to second?
I'll
Thank
second
you.
it.
All in favor? Okay, thank you. Should have this written down in front of me.
Need a
I
little
keep
buzzer.
this-
Yes,
I must have printed it, but I can't
keep
remember where it went.
I don't need to have it.
Need a little buzzer.
Yeah, I know.
Karen, you're
Oh,
gonna
vote.
make changes and send,
Upper
can
and
you just
conditioner.
upload it to the,
Should remember.
Okay, do we have a report from the Personnel Committee?
So Karen, because
Um,
I haven't met yet with you.
No.
Then no.
No, in the past 3 days, we have repeatedly said to each other, we need to make a date to meet, and then something has happened, and we've never made the date, so.
Okay, well, at the retreat, we did talk about a couple of goals for the
Correct.
Personnel Committee.
Right.
And you did have the meeting date on the calendar for, and that date is good for me. It's just a matter of what time.
Was it June
No,
4th?
no, no, there was a date this month that you had.
You can
Oh,
you
this
can
month?
decide the date.
We
Okay.
could talk
Later on.
after. We'll-
Okay,
The goals that the Personnel
dates.
Committee
yeah, there are two
talked about
goals.
was to develop what's called a 360 procedure, which is where the the trustees have the opportunity to meet with staff prior to an evaluation in the fall. I'm sorry, in the spring. And
of the director.
of the director, yes. And the other goal was to develop the Merrimack Public Library Trustees Manual specific to Merrimack. And the goal was to have both of those done in about 6 months' time.
Yes.
Okay? Any other thoughts, ideas?
So the Personnel Committee is developing a trustee manual and developing a procedure. Okay, well, a 360 procedure, you expanded that just now. What did you,
Well, basically, that is a process where the trustees are able to meet with library staff prior to the evaluation of the director, whose evaluation is usually in March or February?
It's March.
In March. So we would be doing this, I would assume, in January, February. And Personnel Committee was going to write a process on how to go about that.
okay. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay. Building Committee?
Well, the building committee met on the 10th, I believe. I have that correct. And we talked about what the building committee would talk about with the library staff. We met with Jared, Yvette, Joanne, Janet, and myself. We looked over the maintenance list that we get every month. Kind of talked about that being sort of a working document. Things go on, things come off. The bigger projects would be in a separate list.
Okay.
We're going to meet quarterly. We set the next meeting date, but unfortunately, I'm not sure I can tell you what it is. Maybe my other committee person can
Yeah, I can.
fill me in. I don't know why I don't have that.
We just went over bigger things, just to, handout that Yvette sent out
Yeah.
was something that we got handed at our meeting.
Yeah.
Um,
There was- This, like that?
Yeah. I don't know if you-
That and, what's this?
Oh, yeah. I'll pass that to you. If anybody wants to look at that.
This one, yes.
The other one.
August
Got
8th.
this, right?
August 8th.
That was in your packets.
Yeah.
Right,
This was,
yeah.
this was in
Yeah,
the packets?
Yeah,
Okay, then I must have printed it.
So August 8th at 4?
4.
Oh, yes, I did.
At the library?
Yep.
Anything else?
Well, just a quick question, since we're on the topic of the building, with this rain, was there any sign of leaking?
No,
Oh, yay.
Good
it's
to
not the
hear.
right kind of rain.
Not the right kind of rain.
Right kind of rain.
Is it horizontal rain?
Horizontal rain.
Yeah.
We need to have specific terms for different types of rain, like the Eskimos do for different types of snow.
yeah.
And then we'd be very clear on the type of rain it is.
Would it be fair to add, there was a suggestion that perhaps someone on the building committee could come when there was like a big project,
Big rain.
a big rain, that they would be present with
And watch the
your
rain.
staff.
Right.
Like when a vendor came to give you a quote, I'm not sure I'm categorizing that correctly or describing it correctly. And I don't think that we decided anything, I just think
I
it
don't
was.
remember this
brought up.
conversation,
Okay.
but usually I will meet with the vendor.
I don't mean.
Because I'm your
yeah,
library staff and I'll report back to you.
Right.
So,
I feel like you guys came up with an idea, but we can all, I don't know how we have to talk about that now, or do we just revisit that?
Well, it sounds like something the committee has to work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to ignore it, because I thought there was an idea in there.
Yeah, it was brought up when the roof got brought up, that when you were meeting with the roof people and discussing things, it would have been good to have someone there.
that's different. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm using the right
Okay.
words. So we're
Okay,
meeting August
anything
8th
else?
at 4 p.m.
I'm sorry?
We're meeting August 8th at 4 p.m.
Okay.
That's the next meeting.
Anything else? Okay. Investment Committee. Janet, would you like to?
No, that's your baby.
That's my baby. Okay, it's my baby. One of the things we talked about was guidelines for management of the library funds. I made a couple of edits that were suggested at that time. Oh, I got the wrong file. I know I printed them off.
Didn't I get version 3 from you?
No, from her.
I did, yeah, I
Oh.
sent them by email, did I not?
Yep,
Yeah.
draft
Yes.
3.
Yeah,
And I had the edits on there, which were minor.
yeah, I
Where
was
did I put my copy?
printing like mad, so
I had so many copies floating around. I think that was my problem. They didn't make it to this pile. There they are. Okay. Unfortunately, on this, I left the one that showed me what the edits are at home. They were very minor grammatical, with the exception of deleting. We deleted internal, the external and internal hiring paragraphs, and was just lumped under funding staff positions. So that was the biggest change, and the other two were just grammatical. Okay. Does anyone have any, we've reviewed this document a few times now. Does anyone have any comments or thoughts about this at this point?
I have something
Okay.
that is possibly related.
Yeah.
So I received an email from the town auditor today. And what they have are, and I'll just pass it around, we have controls in place regarding cash payments that are made over the desk. So
Made over the circulation
when
desk?
people pay for their fines,
Okay.
things like that, who's printing checks. I mean, you can read this. There might be some overlap with the new guidelines that you've written up, but these are the controls that the auditor has, and they need to be submitted to the auditor again.
This?
Yes.
So
They
the
want to
auditor-
ensure that we have guidelines in place. So we have guidelines in place for handling the money. You have different guidelines in place for handling the money and doing other things. But these are the ones that the auditor has always had. The trustees, Rick, you'll remember this, the chair signs off on this. It goes back to the auditor, so they have a record of what the library does.
That's that survey, you're talking about that survey we get once a year from them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but this is the document that he's been given, over all the years that we've been doing this.
Right, and these questions seem to correspond
they're-
with the stuff in that
Yeah,
survey.
it's the same survey. He's probably just got it in a different
Yeah,
format
it just
right here, but.
words it differently.
Yep. Yeah, he said he had put it in an Excel spreadsheet, so he said that's why it looks different. But,
Yeah,
it's still the same thing that he's always seen. It always comes back to the board. The chair is usually the one who has to sign off on it, and then that's what I remember it was. But.
okay.
So you can look at this. We can look at it again next month. Because he just sent it to me. He won't, he'll need it back before
Where does
August.
this live? Does this live in the town, in the auditor's policy file or
It-
something?
It was a document that we've always kept in the bag of cash as just a guideline of, I may not remember how it actually originated, but it's, he asked for how do you do things, and this is how we do things. This is the summary of how we do things.
Okay, well, perhaps we should review this a little more closely then
Sure.
before we.
Yeah.
I was
Janet?
gonna say, would it make sense for the auditor to review the policy?
I don't know, because a lot of that has nothing to do with this.
Yeah,
Staff salaries. This is really, I think you should just read it. And then you can see where it overlaps. But this is the document that has always been given about library controls,
How often does the auditor audit?
once a year.
Okay, so we'll put this on hold, and the investment committee will look it over and see if there's any adjustments that need to be made to the guidelines then.
Yeah, it's not an investment per se, but it's
No, but I just
something the
I-
board
I
needs to agree on.
feel like I need to read it more carefully
Sure,
before
no,
I,
of course.
given my eyes are tired and. Do you agree, Janet?
About looking at it more closely?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we will put a hold on draft number 3 of the guidelines. And there may be a draft number 4.
Well, you can
that's
approve
fine.
draft 3 if you like draft 3. This is a separate document that already
Yeah.
existed, that came from the auditor, and he happened to email me today saying, hey, I need these, are these still the controls you used? And I said, probably not. So,
So we'll look at it and,
I can forward you a copy of the questionnaire we get from the auditor.
okay, that would be good, thank
Yeah,
you.
If you don't see it by Friday.
And to
ping me.
Janet, please, as well.
Yeah, if you guys don't see it by Friday, ping me and yell at me.
Okay.
Are these answers your answers, or
these
some
are the library's
the
answers.
library's answers? I'm just curious.
This is what we do.
And how long do you know when this was written originally? Offhand? No? Okay.
Okay.
Based on the font,
Since this is his font, that's irrelevant.
Yeah, because he redid it instead of it being a
it looks-
questionnaire.
it
I mean,
looks older.
Jen was the chair. I remember Jen signed it once. So, but before I came on, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember the last time we actually reviewed this.
You review it. I
Well-
mean, the chair would. That's,
Yeah, but as far as like as a board.
Oh, well, there it is. There's,
What's it say?
well, it says our invoices and checks review. I mean, it definitely overlaps
doesn't have
as
a
far
date.
as guidelines concerned. But, some of it would pertain, some of it might not. I don't know.
Okay. All right, we'll take a look at it and bring it back to the next meeting. The other thing the investment committee has talked about is developing a 5-year investment plan with the trustee funds. And that is something we will be looking at and bringing back to the board what our thoughts are on approaching this
Which
project.
one?
Hmm?
I'm sorry, what plan?
5-year investment plan
Oh,
for
the
the trustee
5-year
funds.
investment plan,
Yeah.
okay.
So we will be meeting to do that. Okay. Treasurer's report. Janet will be presenting our budget, and we will need to vote to approve the LBOT budget.
Okay. We're going to start with our,
Look at too many papers here.
Yeah, me too.
exactly.
Get rid of this.
Yeah, you sent a whole bunch of stuff, so what
I
are we
did.
looking at
I
first?
sent a bunch of stuff because, and I'm hoping that we can
Yes.
come up with which format everybody wants, or at least majority wants.
Yeah, we've got a lot.
Too much paper.
All right.
This is the
I'm looking at the balance sheet.
Which one?
There's only one balance sheet.
Balance sheet.
This one that goes across the hill, right?
It says
Balance sheet
right
detail?
across on top.
Where's-
Balance sheet detail as of April 30th.
Correct. Merrimack Public Library.
Look at this.
Yeah.
That's town budget. Did I not print it?
Looks like this.
Yeah. Oh, look over your shoulder. I haven't seen that one. Oh, balance sheet, right there. You printed.
Oh,
it
it's
for me.
just the other
Yeah.
direction.
All right, it starts with assets in the corner
Okay.
you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
It just printed differently for me.
So the top one is our business checking DCU fines. Our beginning balance was $17,292.06. And then we closed fines for the month with $17,918.70.
What's under the Amazon one, what's SYNCB?
It's Sync B.
That's,
Yeah.
that's the name of the bank that Amazon uses. That's the
Oh.
address we write the check out to.
Okay.
And then under DCU, right below it, our beginning balance was $11,392.38, and we ended the month with $11,615.42. The rest of that balance sheet shows our long-term savings for fines, our long-term savings for special, and our Watson account, our Watson Trust. And you'll see that our Watson Trust, all the interest or dividend got transferred at the beginning of April, the $256.79. And that was deposited into special.
Oh, yeah.
We actually made 53 cents on one of them.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's that holding, that primary holding account.
Yeah, the money market probably.
The other reports that I sent were profit and loss, which basically just is the income in, expenses out, just to show you how we did for April. Same with special. It's, in reality, it's more just for you guys to look at, and if you had questions to bring. Like the profit and loss detail is the same thing that you see in the profit and loss by month. It's just consolidated.
Right.
So personally, I like the balance sheet because it shows all of our accounts, and I like the profit and loss, but I'm not going to, maybe, I'm thinking of just doing it quarterly instead of seeing all the months together.
Talking about this one with the months?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Just
like
do it.
this.
I like that
Being able to
too.
look back and compare.
Exactly. I just might do it instead of keep adding a month because it gets smaller.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Just keep it at,
Yeah, it gets much smaller, we won't be able to see it.
exactly,
So you're saying chunk it into quarters.
right.
So like next month, we wouldn't
You might, yeah, I
see one
wouldn't.
at all, right?
Right, I would only do
Okay.
like the last 3 months.
Okay.
So it would just be a shifting window, 3 months.
Okay.
Thoughts? Is that all right?
No, I like that idea, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, then I will do that.
The same thing for fines?
Same thing for special, and I'll do the same for special and for fines.
Yeah.
Are you also asking us if some of these other forms are like duplicates but just arranged in a different manner?
They are. Like the profit and loss detail shows just the month of April, but then there's the profit and loss consolidated that it shows the same exact information, just you don't see all the detail.
Oh, okay. I
It's
see.
just
Okay.
consolidated under the
Personally,
main account.
this one,
We purchased passes for the Squam Lakes Natural Science Center.
Here in fines.
Were we doing this, the Science Center before?
Oh, yeah.
Is that 4 tickets or 2?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. But I can look on the
It's
website.
okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, here's Children's Museum, Canterbury Shaker Village,
Mhm.
and Courier Museum of Art.
Yeah.
Lots of them.
Let's take more advantage of that.
So,
So are you asking us if we want one or the other or both?
yes, please.
Okay.
What?
Do you want to
Did
see
I
the
get us off
consolidated?
track?
Do you want to see the detail?
which one are you considering consolidated?
Profit loss?
Like
Profit and
see
loss
this
by
one,
month?
right? Isn't this
Profit and loss by month,
271?
I'm going to do 3 months.
For both
to show
fines
you.
and special.
Of both fines and special.
Yeah, the
But-
rolling 3 months is what it,
Right, a rolling
to
3
me,
months.
that's,
Yeah.
And then the fines or special profit and loss detail or profit and loss consolidated. The detail shows you how many deposits we made and where we expended the money. The detail, that's the detailed one. The consolidated one will just say,
I prefer the detailed.
okay,
Yeah,
then
detailed.
we'll go
Yeah.
for the detail.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Then we'll have a 3-month roving window. And we'll do the detail. So then it's just not a lot of stuff that you guys have to print
Yeah.
out and look at, and the font is so
I
small.
was getting confused.
Perfect.
What's it called?
That's a good time, because then I can just,
Oh, okay, hi Brenda. So we will
Okay.
stop for a moment,
It's a
if you
good
don't
spot.
mind. Thank you for coming, Brandon.
Not a problem.
it's Brendan with an E.
Brendan.
Brendan.
What did I say?
Brandon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh, it's not. No, it's not.
Hey, I've been called Brenda plenty of times.
I've been called Brenda.
People always get my name wrong, so.
Yeah. But they spell it wrong, too.
Yeah. Oh, I get all kinds
Make
of
it easy,
variations.
we'll call you Sam.
Yeah.
Ask you something after.
Oh, there, you call everyone Hun.
What?
Hun.
Hun.
I won't call you Hun. Please don't call him Hun.
No.
You know, like with your kids
We have
when
to
you.
go to a training.
Okay. Oh, here it is. This is the thing.
Okay,
Okay.
what would you like to review with us?
Okay.
This.
Nice lending policy, right?
You don't have
Did
it?
they get all
You
get a
should've.
copy? Okay.
This one, the
Yeah.
device lending,
Yeah.
is what
Yep.
you're going over? Yep.
You're going to be
No, no,
discussing.
it's just, it's one to get
Oh,
one
it's
packet.
one. I
Yep.
didn't get one.
Pages.
Nice lending.
I printed off everything.
Well,
That I didn't get.
that's why I gave it
Oh,
to
you
you,
gave it
because
to
now
me,
I don't
okay.
have it. But
Oh,
that-
dear.
But you need it.
I honestly, I printed
Here, I
everything
have an
under the
extra.
sun.
Dull moment with this.
You know, we could have dull moments. That would be fine.
Can we schedule those?
Let's schedule, put that on the agenda.
Device lending policy.
Sorry.
Yep. This is partially based off my old device lending policy I had in Minot. What we would do is normally check out items like tablets, your iPads, Nooks, or when we used to check out e-readers, Kindle Fires, and we had at the library, we had 3 iPads and 3 Samsung Galaxy tablets that are now ready to go out into circulation with the public. And
Sorry, how many?
3 iPad Airs and 3 Samsung Galaxy Tabs. These are the smaller tablet versions of Samsung's Galaxy line.
Okay.
The lending policy, along with the guidelines and agreement, would help us give the public notice of what the rules are when they check out the device, and also notify them about the fines. And this is something that helped us immensely in Minot when we started running into trouble of people damaging the tablets, because we could always point to this. Did you have any questions on specific areas?
This is very nicely done, by the way.
Thank
Okay.
you.
I have a question about, on this one here.
Yep,
that
the
says,
policy.
Device lending policy. Yep. The one that says borrowers must read, understand, and,
Let's see, Bowers. Oh, it's kind of in the middle.
okay, yeah, it's kind of in the middle. I'm sorry, I skipped over the word sign. I was going to ask, is the document signed? And yes, it is in there.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
So it would be this, it's pointing directly to the form that we would be handing out to patrons when they go to check out a device. So they can't just find the device on a shelf, use the self-checkout, and walk out. They have to come directly to a staff member to go through the checkout process, as well as get the device, which would be, as of right now, we are working on possibly getting a cart that can handle both tablets as well as our current laptops. So if you've seen the one in our library, it's going to look very similar to that. Right now we are planning on having them in our periodical storage room for the time being until we can find a more secure location to store them.
Can I just also say that these devices are replacing the e-readers? So we used to lend, you'll remember, we used to lend e-readers, and that kind of lived its life. And this is a replacement for that.
Yeah, so what these devices will do is they do allow e-reading. I use my regular iPad Air for audiobooks or ebooks, but I also use it for gaming, use it for email, social media, versus if you used, say, an old Nook or an old Kindle, all you can do is e-read. So this gives us a lot more options, and if people wanted to check out this device to watch movies on while on a trip, they could do that now. Versus, I want to check out movies, but all you have is e-reader. So now I'm not going to take an item out from you. This will allow us to. It opens up more possibilities.
Okay, very good.
I had a question about the same bullet point.
Yep.
That
Seems to be the big one.
it says that in the presence of a library staff member, they're filling out this agreement.
Yes.
Then it's handed to the head of adult services for assessment. Is the assessment in the moment, or is that after the fact that the device has gone out?
This would be the patron would sign the form. So say somebody at circulation checks out an item, they'd put this form in my mailbox, and I would be the one to store it.
Does the patron get a copy of the form they sign, or no?
It would be per their if they want to or not, but we do plan on putting without the signing part, we do plan on putting a copy of this with in the tablet bag.
The what?
Tablet bag,
tablet
where
bag.
because there are multiple parts with it, so we're trying to put it all in one location.
Okay.
So I was trying to determine,
Sorry.
I would not have to wait for the head of adult services to give me the device.
No.
This is just to track the paperwork.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is a case of if when they do get returned, they do have to go through, the device does have to go back to me for me to clear off any logins, or I'll say unfortunately I did experience some bad stuff cleaning the tablets in mine out. That was also my job there. So we didn't want these devices to just be like, go back onto the shelf and then immediately go back out.
Like stuff people put on the machines, you mean? Okay.
Even with, I was hoping to be able to grab the device before I ran over here, but the tablets are locked are locked to the point where you can't download anything to it or delete anything from it in terms of apps. So we have that sort of control on, but if it's stuff like photography or videos that they can record on the device, we can't necessarily, we can block those apps, but then it ruins, in my opinion, it would ruin a highly used feature of the app.
So they can use the device to take pictures, but then they don't have the ability to remove the pictures before they hand it back?
They would have the ability to remove the pictures. They can delete the pictures themselves. They just can't delete, say I downloaded the Facebook app to the device. They can't go and delete the Facebook app off. But if they take a picture, they could delete the picture. It's just, unfortunately, people forget that they put stuff on there or just don't bother doing anything with it. So you just have to have that extra layer of... you have to have that extra set of eyes to really make sure those devices are clear before they go out to, say, like a young person that doesn't need to see some stuff that might be left on there.
All right, well, let me ask you, and this might be a question for you, Yvette. So let's say somebody checks this device out and they use it for illegal, like child porn or something. What, I guess, would the library be able to use that and say this is the last person that checked it out and hand it to the police? Or because of privacies of what people check in and out, would that be protected at that point?
I think I would think about that before answering.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but if someone damages an item that they return, then we have procedures to go through to make sure we have people be responsible for damaging an item.
Right. But this isn't damaging, it's using it for illegal
I understand
means.
that. I understand that.
So, okay.
We have our internet policy we've kind of kicked around, including the internet policy here, but at the same time, you could say, well, I'm going to check out an item and I'm going to do things at my house with a book. I mean, there are so many scenarios that we can imagine,
Yeah.
but I think I don't want to speak about that in public.
Okay. The other question I had, this is exclusive to electronic devices. It's not going to cover the telescope and
No,
other
it's
stuff.
just going to be electronic devices. I tried this. The device aspect was actually recommended by another librarian, Mark Glisson from Hooksett.
That was my only device is kind of a broad term.
Yeah,
We add the word electronic device for clarification?
Yeah,
Well, the telescope is a kit. I mean, that has its own policy.
that's considered a kit,
That's
not
a
a
different,
device.
isn't that
different-
electric
And then we have,
device?
what's that, the meter thing that we have there?
That's a kit,
Yeah, what is that?
the kilowatt.
The kilowatt, thank you.
um,
So,
I wanted to try to make that, he recommended making it generic enough that if we start introducing more types of tablets, which I already have ideas for, like Amazon Fire, like Kindle Fire's the Amazon tablet. If this becomes popular enough, this gives us the option to just not bother coming back and editing anything other than maybe adding the device name to the bottom rather than having to change out a whole policy to fit a new device.
If you're not available to clear it, is someone else that is
I can.
qualified to clear it? before
It's
it goes?
honestly, it's not that hard. I know at least most of my staff knows how to do that, and I can designate them or show them. It's as simple as just checking a couple apps, clicking the delete button, or in the case of something like Safari, the internet browser, you just hit clear search history, and that will usually do the trick. And I'll say most people I've dealt with in terms of tablets, they're smart enough to log out of their email, log out of their social media accounts on these devices, since they all know that it does go public. You just have a couple bad apples sometimes.
I just wanted to make sure it wouldn't hold up somebody wanting to get it.
No.
Okay.
So I should probably...
So, any other comments or thoughts about this? Looks
Pretty
good.
thorough, it looks
Yeah.
good.
Do I have a motion? Oh,
Well,
yes?
Sorry, one other question. Would it make sense to put, and I don't know if it's on here already or not, the library's not liable for, it might be on here already, if you do put some personal information on there and somebody else is able to hack in and find it.
I will say that actually it's the second last bullet point under liabilities and limitations. The borrower is responsible first and foremost for clearing the device of
Right,
personal data.
There it is, yep.
The device will be removed.
Yep.
So, okay.
Is that the same thing? Is what you're saying? Meaning, if I don't clear it and someone else looks at it, they would get my information? Is that what you were
Yeah,
asking?
pretty much. So if you use it to connect into your bank account,
Mm-hmm.
and you might think you've cleared it,
Right.
and the library staff reviews it, they don't see it. But, I go on there, and I've got some hacking tools, and, I'm a clever guy, and I go in there and I find, even though it was deleted, I can go in and find it.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've got your connection to your bank account, and I send money into mine.
Okay.
Is the library responsible in any way?
Interesting point.
Are we?
Well, we have an internet policy.
So it
That-
falls under that.
It will.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we can reference it,
That might be a good idea, yeah.
which would cover the illegal stuff,
Right.
because that's pretty broad.
Yeah.
So reference the internet policy. Yeah.
I was just thinking that these are the things that I thought if I was using this device, and I'm like, okay, I don't like to be cynical, but
Well, it is important because you do leave a lot of person. I mean, if you're using this, you're going to be logging into your Facebook, you're going to be logging into your email, you're going to be logging in, as you said, to your bank, Amazon. I put a lot of shopping apps on there, so you're probably going to be putting your credit card data in there.
Sure, but this is, this is a public device. It's like the public computers. It's just leaving
yeah.
the
I
building.
was just thinking that.
So,
Like that, look at that way. True.
So what are the edits you're going to make now?
Okay. So, I think adding just a few, like, the electronic device seems to make sense. I'm going to add to the, these things will be handed to the head of adult services for assessment. I'm going to probably add a designee in there so that if, so that somebody else could theoretically do this. I think I do want to add that qualifier, the library is not responsible for data left on there.
Is that a reference to the internet policy?
And the reference, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, you can probably double check when you get back, but you can always say, please refer to our rules and regulations because that covers patron conduct and it's pretty broad, and then also the internet policy for further guidelines for the use of this device. Then you're covered. I might recommend instead of electronic device, maybe mobile device. I mean, I know we want something that you want to designate it from other things that we have,
Yeah,
but
mobile.
Yeah, because that kilowatt thing could be an electronic
it is
device.
electronic
Yeah.
because it's measuring your electricity.
So yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know that I want to use that term.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
I'll
Well,
think
mobile
about
is-
that line.
Very.
Moving.
And I think I will actually. Oh, it actually is very. I forgot I had this in here. The device will be reviewed by a library staff member upon return to remove any remaining data. So that should cover. I think it should cover the issue with that.
Well, but still say we're not liable. If you, yeah. I mean,
Well, I mean, it's going to be reviewed by a staff member because I think
Okay.
somebody brought up that they wanted to know, like, if I was not here.
I think you said or designee, though, too.
Yeah.
Never hurts to repeat.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll change that wording a
Overkill is
little
better
bit
than
then.
underkill.
Yeah.
Reviewed by head of adult services.
So I mean, like the police themselves, they can find stuff that's been deleted and written over 3 times. They can still find it on your hard drive.
Ooh.
So you know.
And perhaps this is totally not related to the policy, but I would assume in the event that it gets stolen, it gets whatever, I understand the patron would have some responsibility, but do we have insurance that covers if a patron truly can't pay us for something that was stolen or lost, or maybe a separate question? Yeah, I saw that. What if someone just literally doesn't have the money?
we have a card holder policy, and we usually work with someone if
Okay.
they really, really can't.
Yeah.
But if it's stolen, that's different.
Okay.
We had, sorry to reference mine out again. We would do stuff like this happened to me with an iPad where somebody had to do a payment plan, and that's how they were able to afford to pay it off. I'm not sure if that's
Well,
similar.
we always work with our patrons to pay down fines and things, but we did have a Kindle Fire in our collection, which did not get returned. And after, in the RSAs, in terms of library materials, if you don't return library materials, they're considered stolen.
Mm-hmm.
So the police went to visit this person, and suddenly the material showed up.
Okay.
There are
But,
ways to
it
handle
was
things.
locked out. They couldn't do anything with it anymore because we have controls on things that
Right.
leave our building.
Okay.
The only, to kind of piggyback off that a little bit, it is mentioned, there's not a specific cost mentioned for these devices. Now they are not out of date. When I did the software install on some of them, they all took the latest updates, but they are a generation behind what is currently out there. So the iPad, I have an iPad Air 2, which is the next generation ahead of what the library has. So Best Buy does not actually, I used Best Buy as a reference just because it's the biggest electronic retailer. They don't actually have new versions of those anymore to sell through their website. And so instead of, I think the hope is going to be that if we can't replace this item reasonably, we do want to replace it with the latest model instead of just going for the older one.
Does
See,
it say that here?
Well, when we put items in the collection, every item in our collection has a price. So that, it's part of the mark record, what did this item cost? And so if this costs $100, it's going to say $100. But at the same time, under fines, it says we intend to replace it with an identical item, but if that's not available, the replacement cost could reflect the cost of obtaining the latest model. So,
Like,
And it covers both sides.
it will, yes.
That sounds fair, yeah.
so like the cost of what we paid for these devices is pretty much what the cost of now the current model is. So why downgrade or stay the same when we could upgrade? Because they already have the next generation of iPads already been announced, and it's coming out within a year or two. So even mine's going to be out of date. So
Technology,
yeah. So
out of date.
Right.
Yeah,
Which
it's-
is what it says in the bottom of this page.
Yeah.
Any other comments about this policy?
I think
It's very thorough.
Yeah, it's very good.
yeah.
Do you want to entertain the motion to approve it with the suggestion changes?
With
that
the
he's gonna make?
suggested changes, yes.
I'll make that motion then.
I'll second.
All in favor of passing the device policy with the amended changes? Okay,
2 for 2.
good, thank you.
Good job.
Yep. Trying to get that done soon. Oh, sorry, I forgot this was still on. I just made the note.
Okay, thank you, Brandon. Brendan.
Brendan.
I don't know why I want to say Brandon. Brendan, I'm sorry.
E-reader, Brendan.
That's a good mnemonic.
That's how I have to
remember,
remember
yeah.
things. I need to give myself some other clue.
Just make the changes, email it to me, or tell me where you saved it, and then I'll upload it.
Back to the
Okay, where were we with the treasurer's report?
Budget.
The
The
operating
budget.
We're on the budget.
We're on the budget, okay.
The
Clear
operating
away
budget,
the
or are we
old-
doing this budget first?
The no,
The LBOT budget, right?
eat that one, Rick. Yes, the
There.
proposed LBOT budget
Do you want this
for
copy?
fiscal year 18-19.
I brought two.
I had brought one
Yeah.
to our retreat, which was, it's the May 6th. And I reviewed it after looking at the, specifically the trustees of the trust fund money for special. And so I just updated some numbers and added the capital improvement project to both for $1.
Where do you see that? Oh, I saw that at the
Oh,
bottom.
yeah, I saw
CIP,
that,
yeah.
01, but
Right.
I have to find it.
Oh, here, I have an extra. I have it. We got it.
Thank you.
Okay.
The fines dollar amount stayed the same once I added that capital improvement of $1. I just rearranged some of the numbers. Like this year, we just paid for the Smart Pay, which is the online, being able to use your credit card online to pay for fines. That service is was $717 this year. So that's why I upped the e-commerce expense to $720. It has fluctuated, going anywhere between like $596 to $800
For the service?
for the service.
Oh, it's based on how much it's used?
I don't know.
Is it, Yvette? Is it based on how much it's used?
It would be nice if you asked me these questions when I'm at the library and I could look stuff up. This is a Gmail service that we offer in the consortium, so I don't know if all of the libraries buy into it.
Could be it.
You know, the academics, I'm thinking they probably don't, which just brings it down to 10.
Is it used a lot?
We get a check for it, maybe, you know, $40. I mean,
I'm wondering if it's worth it, if it's
it's
not
totally
being
worth
used.
it. It's totally worth it,
It's
because
totally
it's the
worth it.
convenience that we're offering to our patrons,
Okay.
that they can take care of their fines, rather than kind of, you know, does anyone carry actual cash anymore?
Mhm.
You know, not a lot of
Okay.
people do. So, it's a convenience service.
Okay.
Would you mind finding out how that number is
Sure.
calculated?
Yeah, I mean, it's, yes.
I'm just curious. And then with the income generating equipment, coffee is now going to be moved into fines, so I bumped that up.
Where was it before?
It was in special,
Coffee?
yeah.
Oh.
Long story, but it was in special. Now we're going to move it to fines. And then supplies I bumped down mainly because a lot of the supplies fall under something else, so I just bumped that down. But, so fines pretty much stayed the same. With special, I bumped up materials, I doubled it because with that materials, it's pretty much all trust fund money, and we're getting about $5,000, so I bumped it up to reflect it. Most of the staff cost that was for the staff recognition was for retirement parties and 20-year anniversaries, and so I bumped that one down. And that's what I came up with. It's a place to start.
Yeah. Well, this is based on what we spent last year on these items, right?
Yes, most of it is I started originally with the past 5 years, and then my tinkering was from this year.
Now, which one of these, like the stuff we hand out for the 4th of July, where would that fall into? Is that the?
Programs. That would
That
fall
falls under programs, okay.
Oh, we have to talk about the 4th of July. I forgot about the 4th of July.
I can give you an update on the 4th
Oh,
of July.
thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nope. So, do you want to review it again? Do we want to work it through? Any comments, any questions? This would be something we would work with come July 1, start of the fiscal year.
It seems to me that this is going to be a flexible document.
It is.
And if you have reviewed previous years and have spent the time breaking down these expenses into these reasonable kind of line items for our budget, then let's start and see what happens.
Okay.
I mean, it's silly to just,
Well, there's not,
Keep-
not much we can,
you know,
know.
it's just
Tinker with
guessing.
here.
So let's just do it.
yeah.
Okay.
We need a
I'll-
motion? Oh.
Yeah, go ahead. You gonna do it, Janice?
Well, it's a motion to approve it, correct?
Yep.
My motion, we approve the proposed library trustee budget
With today's date.
with,
This one.
with.
The one
oh,
dated May 15.
One dated May 15, 2018,
For fiscal year,
2018-19.
right,
Right.
July 1 to June 30th, 1819. I second. All in favor? Okay, the budget passes, thank you. Oh, goodness. Okay, Anything else, Janet?
Not till new business.
Okay, the operating budget,
Okay.
the general, this one. Yvette was going to bring some detail
Did.
on this.
Oh, this is the 66-page one.
It's 64 pages.
So what we're looking at on the town budget are the items, the library expenditure items, which are the bottom, 10? I didn't count them.
What was that?
The bottom items here are where the library, the detail
That's everything.
on
That's the-
expenses that,
what,
that's everything?
what you're getting is the detail for the month of April.
Oh, I thought it was
So
just
it's
going
going
to be
to,
certain
you're going to
ones.
see personnel, you're going to see every budget line.
Oh, okay, I thought it was just gonna be.
Now, because this is a long document, I did speak with Paul, and he can have prepared weekly detail, and you can receive a personnel manifest and a vendor manifest. Weekly, I can put it in the drawer, and then you can look at that initial that you've seen it, 5 initials that you've seen it, rather than sifting through a 64-page document in 1 month.
I'm not even sure how to, I couldn't really
Well,
interpret what I was
I can,
looking at.
I can tell you, if you look at the first page, it'll have a budget number which corresponds here. And then you see, oh, that's what was spent in April. And then you go down to the next budget line.
Okay.
So everything goes with the budget line. It's the same budget that you approved in the fall. It's the same one that the town council approved.
Can those papers be consolidated? I mean,
No, what I'm saying is, I spoke to Paul, and he is agreeable to printing off a weekly, he suggests he can print off a weekly manifest for vendors and payroll, and then you can see weekly activity rather than looking at something over a month.
okay,
So you'll get a smaller
be much easier to.
batch, and then it, it's,
Yes. Okay,
but that's probably going to be the active month. Usually, the board has reviewed the previous month, so the way he's suggesting is, that may be the active month.
okay. So it would be June and June. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
So when we come to the June meeting,
Yeah.
we will have
that's-
seen the first and second week of June already. Is that what you mean?
I mean, I think we try it.
Okay,
I mean,
see how it
I
works.
don't think you're going to want to sift through 64 pages of invoices.
No. It would just take, I'd have to sit there and,
Yeah.
Really look at it, match, and do a match.
Mhm,
Do
yeah.
a matching game,
Yes.
yeah. So that might be much easier to manage and
Mhm,
try to become more familiar with the detail.
mhm. Well, that's his suggestion.
Does everybody agree with that?
Yeah. What do you think, Jen?
Yes.
Wait to see it, so.
It starts there.
Okay.
Over your shoulder.
I was gonna ask you, would you want one just for the treasurer? But I don't know. Like the whole entire complete
No,
paper.
I only want the 8300s, 8400s, 8500s.
Which ones are those?
Those are the maintenance spending grounds,
Oh,
maintenance
yeah.
office equipment, education and training, computer services. It's like the spending accounts. I mean, those
Yeah,
are-
because the wages are pretty much going to be
Exactly.
close
Yeah,
to the
we
same
don't
week
really need
after
the
week after week.
Exactly.
We have
So it's
no control over that.
just
Each
understanding
one of these is.
where
Well,
we
that's
spend
the-
our money.
Okay.
Like about the last 10 or 10
10 to 12,
line items,
right.
yeah, that's what I,
Oh, is this what?
So
Okay.
this
So
number,
there's
that number, okay,
is-
4550.
yeah, that
okay.
number,
Corresponds to.
Okay.
one of these
Okay,
numbers,
yep.
it's one of the lines
see
in the
that.
budget.
Okay.
that makes more sense.
So where this is just a single budget line.
Right, this
That's
is like
the
the
actual-
consolidated.
Yeah, that's
and
the
then this is
detail
the
of what
detail.
that line actually entails.
Do you want to see this?
No, it's good, you can pass by.
So,
So we'll start there.
Okay, start where?
Become
Because
more-
I'm hearing two different things now.
I'm hearing that we only need certain line items. We don't really need the top part, which is the stable expenses, the wages, the social security, the retirement, et cetera. But what pertains more to us, what line would that start at? Here's the,
8,300. Travel and meetings.
Yeah, so 8,300 on.
Yep.
oh, okay. So from there down,
Yeah.
those would be the ones to detail.
Can I ask why? Because you're not including 8201 office supplies, 8202 maintenance supplies.
Well, the maintenance supplies up there, when I looked it up, said it was janitorial.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I thought we wanted that detail.
janitorial supplies, like what they spend for cleaning equipment. I mean, cleaning supplies.
The 8,100s look like they're all fall into the wages. We don't need those.
I mean, postage, electricity, natural gas, water, sewer, telephone.
Well, office supplies, maintenance supplies.
No, but you
And then-
plumb this together like quarterly? Is that what we discussed?
No, we discussed monthly for now.
Okay.
Wait, what was this?
Monthly for now.
For-
So
well,
we
what
get
was
more
it?
familiar with this.
Versus a quarterly report.
Oh,
Sure, but if monthly,
I meant,
Is
you were just suggesting weekly.
he suggested weekly, because monthly is very large. It's very
Yes.
overwhelming.
Yes.
So, weekly, we pay a handful of invoices every
Yeah.
week. I mean, it might be a big stack like this. Sometimes I get a lot of it's materials, so it'll be big, small. This week maybe I signed 12. Sometimes I'm going through a big stack. There's an ebb and flow to some of the work that we do. So
Yeah. Okay. Well, Janet, what do you think would be the most pertinent?
at least 8,300 and down. I guess we can add in the office supplies and the maintenance supplies.
Postage?
Does that really matter to you?
No.
It's pretty much 8,200 down, sounds like.
82, but it's
But you don't need
postage,
everything in the
electricity,
8,200
natural
range.
gas, water, sewer, I mean, telephone. My goal was to see more where the, like, materials, where things are being spent. And it's like, sewer is sewer, that's where sewer is being spent.
Yeah.
But for maintenance grounds, building and grounds, it's a very high-level topic. So I don't know what's being spent there. So looking at that or a manifest would give me more idea of where the money is being spent.
Okay.
That's all.
So let's start with that weekly to be manageable for now and get familiar with it, and then we can change it.
Okay, I'll let you know when he's able to put that together.
Okay.
And when it's going to start to be in the drawer.
Okay.
Is there any reason it can't be electronic? Like you can't
This is
put
what
it-
he does for the town manager, so he's offering it as a courtesy to us. Same.
Do you keep a general ledger of what
Yeah.
invoices you sign?
Of course.
Is it the same thing that he would be sending us?
No. It's in a different, his is going to come I mean, I've never seen this, but I'm assuming his is going to come out of Unifund, so it's much more accurate than our spreadsheet. You know, I mean, we record, every time we pay an invoice, I approve an invoice. And I used to do this, you know, approve it, make a Xerox, file the Xerox, put it in the spreadsheet, walk it over to the town. Now that, you know, I'll sign it, but all the other little paperwork is being shared by, you know, let's say Joanne does some of it sometimes. And then we have a Excel spreadsheet. It's existed forever. We just copy it, paste it, change the dates for the next fiscal year, and we sometimes add, if we add a service, now we have this database. It'll go into the materials page. We have another spreadsheet that's a detail on materials by department, you know, by type. So the invoice for materials there's a double entry to that. But Unifund, you know, if it's paid by the town. That's the most accurate thing. You know, we count that as more accurate than our spreadsheet because you can have a little more human error in, you know, did we remember to get this? Did somebody enter this thing? And there's always a check mark at the top, and then we file it. But Unifund is the paid bills. So I would count Unifund as accurate. I think also that, you know, if Paul is suggesting this is what he does for the town manager when she's reviewing things. It's good for us.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Agree? Everyone agree? Okay. Would you please? Thank you.
Actually, I want to.
Oh, excuse me. Policies to review, was that the only one?
That was the only
Brendan
policy to review, however, and I have a couple of things I added to my agenda.
Okay.
So you guys had asked for a list of policies with kind of a calendar. This is a calendar that brings us through to summer. I will tell you why.
Now, is this a complete list of all the policies?
This is a complete list of the policies that are posted on the website.
Cool. That's convenient.
Do we have any that aren't?
I'm going to tell you. You all get the paper. I'm trying to be courteous so that you can see what you're looking at. Okay, so this is the actual list from the website that exists at this moment that I copied and pasted onto this piece of paper. Okay. You have written in on the bottom, May, you just discussed device lending policy, which you approved, so that will go up when Brenda gives me the clean edits. We met today, the department heads met today, and one of the things we talked about was this calendar, because we had our, we meet twice a month, or we meet every other week. And one of the things that was brought up based on the year-end expenditure list, which you'll see eventually in this meeting, is different things we've had on this kind of expenditure list, projects we wanted to start depending on funding, is expanding our makerspace to include equipment that would convert one form of media to another form of media, for example, slides to digital. We've kicked this around in the library for a little while. And so we think we're close to it. Brendan was, you know, we've all been kind of looking at a couple of different devices that would work. So coming down the pike sometime when we're ready is a media conversion policy. But there's no date for it because we don't have the things yet. So that's just some, are there things that, you know, we do that aren't listed here? I have a master list of things that, you know, we've jotted down. I think we've kind of covered everything and made them policies if they weren't quite policies yet. And it was just kind of a floating procedure or something that wasn't really written down. I think we've kind of, in a couple of years, since 2016, done a lot of housekeeping and gotten everything up to date. So the things, policies that are still outstanding that haven't been touched in a while. And here's the calendar for when you're going to see them. You have an appeal process. that was last looked at in 2011. I actually brought copies of it, which we can talk about now or in a couple of minutes, because there was a patron complaint that came up and it actually has to do with this policy. Okay? So August, you're going to see 2. We're targeting to have those ready in August because we have summer reading. So that's kind of all the department heads looking at this. It has to do with all of the department heads. So it's collection development. The last time that was reviewed was in 2008. There's a form that goes with the collection development policy, which is a request for reconsideration of library resources. So that is like, shorthand to be, it's a challenge document. You know, I don't think you should have 50 Shades of Grey in the library. There's a whole procedure to go through to challenge a document or to request that you reconsider having this in your collection. And when patrons are complaining about it, it's really, there's another process. You really need to fill out the form, and there's a whole procedure for it. So those two go together, and you should look at them together in August.
Say that. Okay.
So that's for stuff people don't want in the library.
Usually it is.
What about the other way around? If
Just
somebody wants
a
something.
request. I mean, I can see the detail for collection development. You know, people make a request, but I haven't looked at collection development policy in a little while. We've had some staff changes, and you know, different people have rewritten it, but we've never like sat down to kind of compile all these different versions to have an updated one. Community profiles is something you can look at these if you want to on the website. The library used to have a hard copy notebook, like a binder of, for example, all the kindergartens in town. And that moved to like a digital version of that, and now there's yet another iteration of it, possibly in conjunction with the catalog, but it's just, it needs to be looked at for 2018. It's has to be updated. E-commerce, the last time that was looked at was 2014, so that's another good one for July. And then the last time this board looked at the public internet access policy was 2016, but we've made changes with the different services that we offer, so I asked the staff to look at that as well. So that'll be at June. And then once we get through August, everything's been touched, you know, fairly recently, and I can talk to the staff about, you know, what kind of schedule. I think, you know, if we have, I think the last count was something like 26 policies, and you meet 12 months, you know, if you want to review a policy or two once a month, they've all been recently updated, and it will be a really quick review for you. Of course, anytime we're going to add a new service or something, then you're going to get a new policy, like the device lending. That's brand new. So it's going to be kind of a random.
I thought we approved an investment policy recently.
I need a copy of it that's clean so I can update it.
Oh,
And then we just did a bylaw.
I did bylaws, so I need an updated, clean copy.
That I'll get.
Because that's the one that, based on the RSA, we have to review once a year.
yeah, I thought it was
Even
October,
if we
but
don't
this
change
says
anything
July.
with it. Yeah, even if we don't change anything with it, which, that's, when I saw this, I thought maybe that was the last time we made changes to it.
No, we just passed one, and is it July
Then I
or
need the copy.
October?
I think it was October.
Was
So
it
that needs a
October?
copy
Because
of
I
what?
put it on that calendar.
The secretary can send me the clean copy.
I will do that.
That's been approved. Just,
Okay,
and then I'll update it.
okay.
Whenever you get your hands on it, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't have it, well, I have it here, but I have to
Just email me.
find it. I just want to find some place to make notes. Send. Okay, because now I have to send you bylaws that have been changed.
Mhm.
And I have to send you investment policy that has been approved. Huh. Okay, must be quite recent.
Okay, I want to make sure it's consistent with what I've got, so just
Yeah, well, I'll
Oh,
find it.
double check
I'll
with me
post
to
it.
make sure that it's the same one.
Yeah, I mean, but then everyone can access it. because
Yeah,
it'll be
yeah,
up on the
absolutely, yeah. Okay.
Oh, yes, I remember, okay.
website. Any questions about this?
No, very good, thank you. We're catching up more and more.
Okay.
Director's report.
Director's report.
Okay, now I
Okay,
just have-
so do you want to talk about year-end expenditures? Technically, it's operating budget, or it could go under new business.
Oh, yeah,
I'm sorry,
operating budget.
Year-end expenditures,
You're in-
technically, it's operating budget, but it can go under new business.
Under what?
New business, it's up to you.
We can do new business, how's that? Well, technically, it's operating budget, no, it should be,
Yeah, I'm
Should
saying
be
it's,
under
it's your
operating
call,
budget.
you're the chair.
yeah, the operating budget.
Okay. So. You can take one and pass.
It's too many papers.
Okay, so I sat down with the department heads in our meeting today, and we looked over, we keep a list of, it's an ongoing list of, services, furniture, repairs. It's kind of a catch-all of, things that come up during the year that we want to start, implement, purchase, but weren't included in the budget because it comes up over the course of a year. Some of these things are long-term. Some of these things have been on this year-end expenditure list for a couple years. Sometimes we're not sure if we can implement something. Sometimes the department head wants to take some time to think about it. So this is kind of, it's very similar to the building project list where it's just a place for us to all capture, our thoughts and put it on paper and then make sure we don't forget it. So we've ranked them based on how things are going over on our end. Things that are on the first 2 pages are things that we would prioritize. The third page, there's a lighter shade between 23, 24, 25, 26. That's second tier. And then the last block from 28 to 31 is something that is least ranked because other things need to happen first. Is that clear to start with?
You said 1 through what is?
It's like number
the top?
3. It's like 3 because of the headings. So
yeah.
3 through 21.
Okay.
They're
3
the
through
pri-
21.
They're the priorities?
We would prioritize on the staff side. For example, mental health first aid training for all staff. This was something, we have a safety committee, and depending on different issues that happen in the library with patrons, sometimes the question comes up, what's the appropriate way to interact with a patron who has some mental issues or is acting out,
Behavioral problem.
behavioral issues, and we just, we've had training in the past, but then we have staff turnover, and then someone ends up finding really good training.
Well, this says closed for a full day. Is this a conference you would go to, or so you'd bring
This is
somebody
something that
in?
they would do in-house.
So somebody would come to the library who would do this?
It's in the notes field.
Keep reading. Right where your pen is.
Oh,
gonna call him G. So the,
Isn't that the National Association of Mental Illness, AMI?
They didn't write, oh, I didn't bring those notes,
Okay.
but
It's
Yeah.
a group that comes, or a person that comes.
yeah, one of the people on the safety committee did a lot of deep research about this, and
We had the
that's the
same
recommendation.
People come to our school.
Mhm.
the section that you have waiting for space study, who's conducting the space study?
There is a vendor. I don't know if I should mention him in the public. So yes,
But it's, wondering if it was staff or outside.
this is an outside vendor that works with other libraries.
That's all you need to say. And by the way, you're killing me with the lower and the uppercase no.
I didn't type this document, so I'm not the one killing you.
That's my nuance. Just
Okay, so I don't know if you want to work through this list, but you know, just to go down, I guess, we're mindful that there's still a balance to purchase a new book drop. We think that would serve the public very well. If we have funds towards the end of the year, you know, we're very conservative when we spend the budget. And then if there's a personnel change, that money is not accounted for because people come in at different rates. Health insurance rates are budgeted at the highest maximum rate, but then they might come in an actual low. That's another unanticipated amount of funds. So we want to spend our budget down, but maybe we should spend a little more aggressively during the year. I was talking to them about this. The other thing with our staff, we had 2 new department heads come in, and in working with them, you know, they really wanted to take the time to learn the collection, and they're doing very careful weeding and maintenance of the collection, so the purchasing isn't as high as it might have been a couple years ago if we had existing staff. So I've asked them to speed that part up a little bit, and they are confident that they will. And I said, really, just don't hold back anymore. Go for it. So, you know, when you get to the activity, if we start looking at the weekly activity, you're going to see a lot of activity, which is very exciting. And then maybe they'll be able to find a balance next year. I think they'll be much more comfortable with knowing their collection and really confident that this is a fresh collection. It's balanced. It's got classics. It's got new stuff. You know, I mean, so that's something to kind of just give you a little bit of framework for it.
What pool of money are you working with?
This is our budget.
This is the
But
town.
this is our allocation from the town.
Okay, and how much are you expecting that needs to be spent?
It might be 50.
Okay. And what are your recommendations? Is this the list
these
of
are-
priorities for sure? This is the
Yeah,
final
we
list?
spent a lot of time this afternoon really, really talking about this, and as a group, so that everyone gets what they want. You know, I mean, you want to be fair, I guess, and you know, but I think, you know, if we are able to have mental health training, I'm very reluctant to ask you to close the building for a full day, 8 hours. That's a lot to take in for training, and that's a lot to be closed. Even though we're open, 10 hours. If we did 2 half days, we also have a lot of part-time staff. Our frontline staff at the circ desk, children's room, reference desk, they're part-time. They may not be able to commit to a full day because they're part-time. There's a reason why they're part-time. So kind of details that we'd want to work out, but that's working out with the trainer. I mean, this is kind of a longer conversation about the budget, but the intention is if we can equip the staff with better training to interact with patrons that come into our building who might have issues with their mental health, we will have a better library. You know, we want to have a better patron interaction with folks,
Agree
and
with that. I think
sure,
that's a good idea.
but
2,000 seems a little high for that, but
it's good for 30 people, so it'll cover all the staff. I mean,
I've been through it. It's
Is it a good program?
yeah, it's a good program.
Oh, it's good.
like I said, the book drop, this is the cement pad, or in any preparation, we would work with the town. Space City consultant Rick Aretti spoke to that. This is a quote. It is not my quote, but it is a quote I received from another library doing a similar project. Patron counting device, this has been on the list for a couple of years. We're looking for the right device, and we found one. So I think we're ready to purchase that and figure out how to work it.
It requires an annual fee?
This is going to be like, it's actually pretty similar to like the time clock, where there's one device that will accurately count people who come in and out of our building, and it can be accessed on the web. So, I can access payroll from my office. It's not one designated computer.
Oh.
So, there's a service
Oh, I
fee
see.
for it. So,
Gotcha.
which I think that can roll into our budget that's already been approved for next year. Chairs, my table is being replaced, so this is kind of the second half of that project. The two tables that are in my office, nobody really likes sitting at two tables. So we're just gonna.
I like the big one you used to have.
I know. This is, the teen, it's out in the teen room now, and back when a different department head was in youth services, they put on this list, teen table. And then we started to experiment, and can we reuse an existing table? Well, let's test it out. And we did a folding table where the teen table is now. And then it's like, well, this is just like my table. Why don't you just take this table and then you can use it? I'll deal with folding tables. Don't, because this is the public space. I don't want a folding table in the... So after that long process, now my new table is coming in, and I can now return the two small tables that I've been using to the public space where I swiped them from for a time. There's always a process for this. None of these decisions are made lightly.
Or it's almost here, right?
It's being delivered Friday.
Good.
Why do we need new bookcases?
Uh,
What's wrong with what we have?
Okay, so what's wrong with what we have is they are not efficient for display. They are, if you look at them closely, and this is, again, something the previous youth services head also had on her list, these were not great bookcases to be used in a library. They just don't display well. They're too deep.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to display the items in a public space, we can use a different, more suitable bookcase.
This little website reference, we could go look at. You could. Wanted to see what they look like.
You could,
Okay.
sure.
Just out of curiosity.
Apple TV?
Yeah,
You
that
need
is.
access on the web?
This is for programming. We're teaching tech stuff, so this is something Brendan thinks would be a great idea to do.
To teach people how to use an Apple TV
It's the app-related programs. It's.
or Apple.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have a Facebook app. If we're doing a Facebook class, this is a lot easier.
Is that a recurring cost?
No, it's a thing.
It's a thing.
No.
Well, I'm glad to see the book drop on there.
Yep.
I thought the cost of the book drop
Its total is 16.
with the accessories.
Yes, but the friends have from the turkey shoot 57.27,
Right.
57.27.
And, okay, because I knew with the accessories it came up to like 15 or 16,000.
yeah.
Okay. And does that include the cart?
That's the
Everything.
package you saw
Yeah, okay.
initially. Yeah.
Was it published to everyone what was collected originally from the turkey shoot?
I don't
For
understand.
that?
I didn't hear you.
Did we announce what we collected from the turkey shoot that was
The amount.
going to the book
Yeah,
drop?
yes.
Okay. So then, since then, there's these other things that have come up, and you can't put it there until you have the pad, obviously.
No, when we brought an idea, a suggestion of what to raise the turkey shoot funds for to the Friends, it was, here's a book drop. So at that time, the Friends Committee and the Turkey Shoot Committee saw this is it. That has not changed. It's a double book drop. So aside for books, aside for media, because when you drop a book on a DVD case, it's going to get crushed. There's like a cart that goes in and out. It's something that will be sturdy enough to bring over the parking lot through the snow, or a plowed, any kind of challenging surface. There's a cover in case it's snowing or raining when we're getting the materials out of the drop. There's a location that's already been selected on the library property for where the drop is going to go. You were maybe not on the board at the time, but there were many, many, many steps to clear the location. It's where the can shed used to be.
Right.
It's right on that corner. I think Jared usually puts a cone there just as a reminder, this is where the thing's going to be. The dumpster, we've talked to the dumpster company about, once the book drop gets there, how are we going to have you maneuver your truck, get the dump, thing from the dumpster and return it to the same spot. We've talked about a privacy fence, which isn't going to be 100% private because of how the truck has to come in. So there was a lot of little pieces before saying we're ready, but and then a third of the money was raised already.
So you would just take the first 50 off this, Adam, going down the list.
If you look at each section, it adds up. So if you look at the last page, 40 is the total of all three sections.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And this is working with Paul and getting the final numbers.
I got a question regarding the dumpster. Has Jared considered having the dumpster in the shed swapped? Where they're actually located? I know it'd be a pain to have the shed moved, but
I don't really think that's feasible, no.
okay.
There's just not a lot of wiggle room on that corner.
There really isn't.
Because
There's
I'm
not.
thinking when you pull in the shed straight, it's a straight shot. I'm wondering if that would be an easier location for the dumpster for them to maneuver their truck, because then it's just a straight angle.
I can talk to him about it.
Yeah.
But it might interfere with parked cars.
I was totally going to interfere with parked cars. I can still talk to him about it. I mean, right now it's only interfering with staff cars. And usually the dumpster comes, they're going to come in the morning. That is where the plow puts snow on the corner close to the dumpster. I can talk to Jared and he can work it through.
Yeah. So I'm
But-
thinking, if we had to, the town, I think, has a forklift. They could use a forklift to move the shed.
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud. All right.
So is this the final list you want to propose?
Yeah,
In this order?
I talked about some of this stuff. I mean, you guys had a couple minutes to look it over. I included, if you didn't know what a cantilevered bookend was, I included a picture of that. It's just a much more efficient way of securing our books to the shelves. This is something, she went to a conference, got really excited, brought it back to me, and I said, I don't know if I have the money for this, just wait. And that's how we usually talk about it, so.
Are they interchangeable? Like if for some reason you change your shelving, could you still use them?
Oh, yeah.
It's nice when a product works in multiple places.
The number 24, makerspace, maker play items. Is that like new kits?
They didn't put detail. They have a long list between Brendan and Emily. They have a really long list of some really cool stuff. that I didn't realize they didn't put in here. Because a couple hours ago, there was a whole list, and then they kind of consolidated it because it was going to be a really long document. But
Were you the one, or was it somebody from another library at the conference that mentioned sewing machines?
I mentioned sewing machines. That's still on a
Wish list?
That's still on a maybe list, because then it's still the procedures when something is returned. You know, we have to. They don't really like if I propose something before they've worked out all the kinks. So
Sewing machine, you have to know how to use it. They're
sure,
all
but you can.
electronic.
And that also came forward when previous department head was here, who really had a particular gift of sewing, and could have been one of the staff to, when the machine gets returned, can review, like clearing the device. I can go through a sewing machine. There's a couple of us who can go through a sewing machine, but it's also a lost art, which is why we'd like to get one in circulation. That's really useful. But then, you would need to train the public on, this is how you work this machine, similar to get an orientation on a device or something like that, and then, or the kilowatt or the telescope. I mean, there's a lot of kits that we have that go out where you need a little orientation on how to use it, but then you still need the procedures on who's going to check the machine when it comes back, who's going to perform any maintenance on the machine, who's going to reload, if we're including thread, bobbins, needles. I mean, there's a lot of little things for a sewing machine. So that may come next year. You may see that this year. I mean, that's just, I think right now it's a low priority. It's on a whole nother separate spreadsheet. So,
Yeah, 'cause like you said, thread. I mean, thread you can get 1,500 colors.
But we could include black, white. You can include basics.
Right.
I mean, how many? If you're doing repairs, I want to get in sewing machines, but
Yeah. Sorry.
no.
Didn't mean
But
to
we
go
sit
off
around
the
the table
tangent.
in my
Yeah.
meetings, and we hack through any possible scenario and what's feasible.
Number 30, waiting for space study. Why is signage so expensive?
Okay. So if you think about the main floor, for example, and you want to look at the bookcase, you're going to see a perpendicular sign on the end of a shelf. New signs have been on the list since I've been the director, for sure. They're outdated, they're challenging to look at, and can we update the signage? We've talked about, do we still call the reference desk reference? Do people know what that means? Circulation, do people know what these words mean, or are they too close to library speak?
What other language would you use?
Ask me. Ask here. Information. Guest services, patron services, customer service. I mean, different libraries are starting to change their labeling, language, just so it's a little more friendly,
Contemporary?
accessible, understandable, but I know we've talked about this probably since I was a children's librarian. I mean, this is a topic that comes up in library land about, what does your signage say? Are you still using, the old signage, or can you adapt it to something that non-librarians will understand?
Perhaps you should have adaptable signs.
Well, we can work out the details, but it's just, the intention is
Yes, I understand.
update the signage so that our
Yeah.
patrons understand where they are and where they need to go.
Card
Okay.
catalog.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's really, a lot of it is the kind of glaring, I don't want to say I mean, it's the 70s. Wow, my sign on my door is totally incorrect because it says librarian. I'm not the only librarian in the building. It should say director's office. That's a sign. We've got to put it on the list. We're going to make do right now. I mean, there's a sign
point,
that
it
I can.
does.
Huh?
Let's say librarian.
It says librarian. It's not right. So.
Okay, so are you asking us to approve this?
Oh, actually, I have a question.
Okay.
In our building committee meeting, Joanne brought up landscaping.
Mhm.
Is that, I mean, I didn't see it, but instead of having Jared piecemeal it, I'm just throwing it out there. It's not necessary, but the what is it? The parking lot area where the hill is. Just hire someone, put a retaining wall, do your bushes, get it done.
We'd need a quote. I don't have a quote for a retaining wall. That's expensive. So, I mean, I can put it in, I mean, I can put it on the list and it can exist on the list and we can start getting quotes if we get them fast enough.
Right.
Then, June, I mean, really we want to be encumbered soon.
You're talking about down the far end of the parking lot?
It's the church side.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like when you
Parking lot.
come in to the left.
Yeah,
There.
yeah, you're
I
talking
mean-
a couple thousand, like
Oh.
probably in the tens of thousands for a retaining wall.
Well,
It doesn't have
We
to
can get
be
a quote.
like
Even
a
a
4
cheap
foot
one.
high.
No, even a cheap one.
I don't know. I have a retaining wall that's taller than me, and it wasn't tens of thousands. So,
How long is it then?
but this one doesn't necessarily between the.
Okay, well,
It would be worked out, but even if I could see it being between 10 and 15.
yeah.
That's a good point.
I mean, in the past, I've brought you lists where, you know, we didn't have this. I mean, we had a lot of changes in personnel this year, and I know I've given you lists before where it's like, this can definitely come out of the library. Year-end expenditures. Let's ask the trustees if they're interested in this, you know, in supporting this one over here, you know, and then this one's going to be friends. I mean, I've had different categories here. We didn't do that this year, but it could be, we can go get a quote, bring it to the board, or bring it to the building committee if you want to meet in a smaller group, and say, here's what we found out, you know, and then you decide, you know, and it could sit on a maybe list until next year, until sometime mid-year. I mean, you still have seasonal seasons to deal with. You can't do anything when it's winter, so you're
That would
gonna
be
have
something for the building
fall.
committee to follow up on.
For this year or for a future
I
year?
can get a quote. I'll see about getting a quote really fast. Depends on if someone is, you know, is a vendor, have time in their calendar to come meet with me, walk the building, you know,
Right.
walk the
So
grounds.
this
and
is
work up a
landscaping
project.
season.
Right,
They're
exactly.
probably
So-
all, I'm not saying it's impossible, but
No,
we
but
need
it
to
depends
bear-
on their calendar,
Yeah.
you know.
I just,
Get a
I can
quote for
find
a
out.
retaining wall for the parking lot,
Well, you're saying retaining wall landscaping?
Yep.
Both,
retaining wall landscaping, yeah.
okay. I mean, I can find out.
and this is the slope by the church.
Yes. Again, the side.
Is Jared already in the process of doing some things, right?
Right
He
now,
doesn't need
well,
to stop doing
right
what
now he's in the process of
doing.
installing the benches.
Okay.
Where the picnic table is, that has the handicapped access.
Mhm.
There's 2 diagonal benches that are going there, and they're, you know,
Yeah, I
he's
saw
prepping
them,
the
yeah.
ground, they're kind of on the
Yeah, I
ground.
saw that.
Yeah.
But he's prepping holes, so that's literally what he's in the middle of. Anything else? Is that the only ad?
Swimming pool?
Do you want me to put?
You say?
I had to say it. She showed those videos the other day for the bowling alley. And
Let's just say hot tub.
Oh,
Then we can
okay.
read and hot tub it.
I think the landscaping's a good point, like, is more mulch gonna be put down?
Oh, it's already been delivered, so he's just working on that.
Oh, okay.
You know, this is.
I haven't been over there, so I haven't seen.
Oh, no,
Okay.
the mulch has been delivered. I mean, the plants were going to be, you know, probably more like a June, because he was gonna work with the garden club with that, but, I'll find out.
Okay.
Do you want?
Off
want
the
me to
top
put
of my
sewing
head, I
machines
can't
back
think
on
of
the thing,
anything
or-
to.
I mean, I know it's on a list, sewing machines.
That'd be pretty cool to have them. But I think that's something we can fundraise for
To have what?
a turkey shoot or something one year. To have like sewing machines in the library or something like that. I mean, from that actually from that last NHLTA session, I made a list of a bunch of the things that they suggested in the thing that were kind of neat.
I love the idea of having, like you brought up tools and sewing machine. Just don't have any place to store
Well,
them.
That's the problem.
That's the problem, because right now we have the cake pans
Yeah.
downstairs, we've got the signs
I mean,
downstairs.
No space.
no.
Should
I
I
don't know
put
if
that
we
on the
can do
list?
everything we want to do.
Yeah, we could have a whole conversation about what we'd love to do in the library. We could be here all night talking about that.
Well,
Okay.
it is 9:05, so let's try to move along a little bit.
Any other questions about this?
No,
No.
thank you. It's nicely done.
So before we spend the encumbered funds, though, we do need to vote on it as a board to approve the expenditure.
But we don't know what we're spending it on yet.
On this.
In this order.
This is
Yeah,
what you
I
were
mean,
asking, right?
Yeah, I might suggest you say up to, I mean, really,
Be up to the
Like up to the
50,000.
21?
well, I mean, we're working to spend down everything. So this is, on number 40, this is our estimate based on numbers, we filled in numbers everywhere. So some things, when it says under 28, 29, 30, 31, it's, yes, we intend to do this, but something needs to happen first, and then something else can happen next year. So the project might get completed in 1819, but, and that's what we've always, that's been our practice is, oh, okay, well, I can't get a vendor in here until September, but I'm gonna use these year-end funds to,
Right.
So your perfect example is you have to have the space study done before you can do the next steps. Ordering, right? The desks, et cetera.
I mean,
It'd be kind
well,
of
do you-
silly to put one before the other.
for example, I'll give you an example that probably we talked about a couple months ago. Emily would like to, when we moved some furniture in the children's room, a study table was removed. And instead, there's soft seating. And now furniture's been rearranged, so there's soft seating, toddler furniture, it's the blue couches and chairs. In a whole different corner of the room, that's where the study table used to be. It used to be bibliographies and reference materials, big cases. Then we've had different floods, and so we decided, well, let's move things, furniture close to the windows, so if anything happens before they're, repaired, then we can quickly move furniture rather than materials and bookcases. So part of this, when she became the department head, the previous department head had kind of picked up where I left off, did additional changes to the room, has to do a lot with collection flow, creating patron seating, consolidating where the staff is sitting. Emily came in and picked up where Liz left off, but every time there's a new department head, they put their own spin on it. So the latest piece of this is, Emily is leading the nonfiction collection, but she is starting to see that patrons want to have a study table. But so many years ago, the study table was removed to create a different kind of seating. So now she's like, well, how can I bring back the study table? And it's just that's the need is I want a study table. Lots of things are affected because where do I put a study table? So it's like, well, can you rearrange the nonfiction shelves? Only if you weed them down a certain way. So we bring a consultant in who does our shelving and say, okay, I want to have a study table. And okay, well then you need to rearrange the shelves. You're going to have shelves like this, and it's going to be this many, but you have to get rid of this many books. And I'm like, okay, well wait, don't buy these shelves yet, because you need to know what the size of your collection is going to be before we buy shelves. So just wait, and then they start working on a weed, So we had designs. We had a quote. Here's what the shelves look like based on what Emily wanted. I said wait, and then it's just paused. So, kind of thinking, is this answering your question?
Well, I was just trying to say, I understand.
So,
you
waiting
can't
for
do
space
this
study.
until you know what your space study is.
So then I went to one of my co-op meetings and met this space planner for libraries, and it was like, great, we can bring someone in, fresh set of eyes, who can draw up plans for us based on the kind of struggles that we're having with our space, this list that we're keeping of, this is the stuff I can't do in this space throughout the building, and then just have, because the initial charge to the board that hired me was, can you create patron seating? To do that, you need to weed 10% of the collection, and we created the Lowell room and did all the different things on the main floor and the children's floor and whatever. And now we're at the end of that charge. We really are. Now it's different problems are starting to still kind of come to the surface. We haven't solved everything. We've solved some things. We've created some patron space, but there's other things that we don't have. Private study spaces we will never get in this building. So then it's like, okay, let's bring someone in. We can tell them that. And then they can say, okay, to build an addition, to gut this library, HVAC, sprinklers, still a problem, the windows, problem, give me different scenarios of really not touching the interior anymore, but now we're going to make structural changes. So that's what this is. So it says, children's room wants a new desk. Sure. Great. Wait until... Don't buy these installed bookshelves that are going to go along that wall and come out to here so you can put a table in the middle of them. Wait. Because now we're going to take a step back and say, is the children's room still going to be the children's room? Or are we going to build an addition and that's going to be the children's room because it's going to be on the ground floor now with windows and access so a stroller doesn't have to come down the elevator. Little things like that, and then what's the different use? How can the basement, where the children's room exists now, be repurposed for study rooms, small meeting rooms? Maybe it's administration. I don't have to live on the main floor. I can live anywhere. The director's office, whatever. So it's just, but to get one person who's a professional looking at everything, and she'll do it in stages. She can come in anytime in a project. So we're at the end of our piece. She can come in now. Does that help you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay. So the bottom line, we still need to vote on this.
Yep.
Yes.
We didn't include, I mentioned materials. We didn't include that. Doesn't change any lines because it's just going to be spent on materials. This is that personnel stuff as far as I know from Paul. That's what we're estimating.
Okay.
And so it would be insurance.
So we're approving what is an estimated figure, not an actual figure.
Yeah, but you'll get updates, as we go through this. And I'll be in touch with Paul with how close we get to the bottom.
So we can vote to approve really up to what the encumbered amount actually is, rather than what the estimated amount is.
I think you I
mean what the actual leftover expenses are.
I mean, it's a flexible number. It's not to the penny at this point. Our intention is to spend down 100%. We'll get as close to 100 as possible.
Okay.
So,
does anyone have anything else they want to comment on regarding this?
No.
I'm not sure I understand. This money is. Are we asking for this money to be put into another budget?
It's changing a budget line.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we have leftover money in the town budget that we haven't used
Okay.
because of staff
Make sure I
turnover,
understood that.
whatever.
Okay.
So this is what we're going to look
Come
to
on
spend
that.
it to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the actual dollar? We're making the motion for up to how much?
That was what I was trying to get at. We don't know the actual number.
He
At this-
gave me a range.
Yeah,
Okay, so he gave me a range, so it might be, let's say it's 50.
okay. So actually, we're voting on to spend, prioritizing these projects as you have them listed here, to spend the extra funds on these projects up to the amount that exists,
Yeah, which
Really?
is kind of,
which is around
It's an est-
50,000.
it's an estimate from him,
Yeah.
so.
So a motion is made to approve the prioritized list to be expended with
We could-
current,
You have to define what the list is.
yeah, but with current encumbered funds.
Well,
Well,
it's to encumber funds.
to encumber them.
Or,
Prior to encumbrance.
This
I
is
mean,
the
Some of these are just going to be spent. Some of these are going to be
it's the
encumbered.
leftover town funds that we're going to encumber for these.
So
for
the
this
motion is to encumber the funds left over based on this priority list.
wait
From
a
the
second.
town
Based on the,
budget.
per the number that we'll
Well,
receive
it-
from Paul.
But it might be because, let's say mental health, that would probably technically come out of training. If your training line in the general ledger, because we budget what we budget, but this is additional training. So you might be moving personnel line, 8104, 8103, any of the health insurance lines, down to training, which is probably not off the top of my head, but it's one of those 8300s. So you could say, we approve to move money from one budget line to another where appropriate, based on the list, encumber the rest. I mean,
Works.
it's, because there is a little bit of moving that happens at the end of the year.
Okay, so, a motion?
I don't know how you want to word that.
Well,
motion,
this,
though.
that, I'm asking for help.
Rick, would you please rephrase?
So I'm trying to think of how we want to phrase it. So the motion is to approve encumbered funds,
They're not encumbered
Spending.
yet.
spending the
Spending.
encumbered funds
Spending,
No, just spending.
To spend
to spend
the,
and encumber if necessary.
and encumber funds
the, from the town budget that are not yet expended.
based on the list
The
where
wish
appropriate.
list.
Okay, but you're going too fast and I can't. So a motion is made to approve spending and encumbering if necessary.
Do you want to say maybe before spending, I'm so sorry,
No, yeah.
reallocating?
Yes.
Very good.
That's a better word.
Better word.
Reallocating and spending, encumbering when necessary. So you got the
Yes.
three
Yes.
sections of
Yes.
this thing? Okay.
Yeah.
To approve,
Reallocating,
yeah. well,
Spending
This is
and then encumbering.
That's a lot of words.
a lot
or
of
reallocating, not spending.
But there's,
No,
those are
it's
the
all
steps we're going
those
to
are
go
the
through.
steps.
No, I
You
mean to spell out.
reallocate
A motion
because you're
is
moving
made
money from
to-
one line item to the other line item. You're spending, and then if it's needs to be encumbered because it hasn't been fully spent yet this
Yes.
year, you need it for the next year.
Right.
So somebody tell me
It
what
takes a village, man.
this motion, the motion is made to approve reallocating
Spending
Spending.
and encumbering
spending
From the town budget.
And encumbering if necessary.
and encumbering if necessary from the town budget
based on the list provided from Yvette where
Based
applicable.
On the wish
on
list.
Well, don't
the
say wish list.
What would you call
prioritized
it?
Did we still have that on there?
Yes.
It's year-end expenditures because Rick always said
Okay.
don't say that. What? But it's shorthand.
Yeah. Based on the
Reallocating for these
allocation list.
expenditures instead.
Yeah.
So reallocating,
So what do you got so
motion is
far?
made to approve reallocating spending and encumbering if necessary from the town budget
Yes.
based on the prioritized,
List.
Year-end expenditure.
I think you need the word funds. Funds from the town budget.
if necessary,
Funds.
Line I,
cumbering
I think
if
you just need
necessary, funds
I'm getting too tired to think it through.
from the town budget based on the list of prioritized
year-end
items.
expended
Oh,
items.
yeah, okay, prioritized, okay, based on the prioritized, it's just, I don't know why it's so complicated.
It's a lot of,
You gotta
a
get
lot
it
of
right,
language.
List,
It is complicated.
now what was it, based on the
No,
prioritized?
wait,
Oh,
you read it back.
Based on the
Year-end
year-end
expenditures.
Prioritized list of year-end
Expenditures
expenditures. I think we might have
where
it.
applicable, right? So if
Now, okay,
they don't apply,
just because I threw it in and we don't have a quote, would we consider it, or we're not going to consider it at all?
what?
The landscaping, because by your motion, it's this,
Yeah, the
with
lands.
no additions.
Ooh.
Well, you can say amended, or,
I mean, or
So you want to include the landscaping on this list?
I just wonder how much it is. I mean, if it's like, I am all in favor of going to the first 21, and then if
Based on the prioritized list of
year-end
expenditures.
if it's,
Where
if
applicable.
the landscaping
Where
exceeds
applicable.
the rest, then forget it.
What's that, 32,000 for?
That's
So
the
as
that's
the
the
tail end of the motion, we could
adding
also
of the
add,
first.
Oh.
and the possibility of landscaping.
I think you should keep it, the landscaping, because it's a request. You just talked about it,
That's what I'm saying.
so,
Keep, what do you mean by keep it?
So that would be, we would include that in here, then something else would have to fall off it.
no, not necessarily.
No.
I can find out what it is, because I told you the
Right.
number I'm getting from Paul is a flexible number.
Okay.
It's an
so
estimate, I mean, some things,
To include a retaining wall for landscaping.
No,
Or
just
to-
landscaping.
Just say,
Just
on.
say-
Okay, to
Landscaping.
include landscaping.
We don't know what it will end up being, if anything, right?
Okay, a motion is made by somebody to approve reallocating spending and encumbering, if necessary, funds from the town budget based on the prioritized list of year-end expenditures where applicable.
you can say, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
if you want to say updated prioritized list,
Which would
What the
Which
date
would
is.
Which would include the.
Updated would be by today,
Perfect.
today's date.
Yeah, okay, I got it.
And I'll make the motion.
Yes.
you're
we
going to
go.
take credit for that
To include
sentence?
You
landscaping.
got it.
To include landscaping.
Wait, I'll read it and then you tell me. Let me just get Rick.
You realize that next month we're going to be like, this isn't worded right. There's no verb in this.
What is this all
Just
about?
thinking that we're all going to be editing.
But first, we're going to say thank you, Karen, for doing
Hey,
such a...
I'm just going to do what everybody
commendable
tells me to do. Moved.
and consultants.
Okay. Made a motion to approve. Okay. Rick Barnes made a motion to approve reallocating spending and encumbering, if necessary, funds from the town budget based on the updated prioritized list of year-end expenditures where applicable. And
Okay.
that
Put
would
the- put
include
the up-
landscaping.
Put the update as 5/15/18. so we know what date we're referencing.
Oh, we know.
No, we don't know.
We don't?
Not unless we write it down, we don't know. This list could be February for all we know. So this is the 5/15/18 list,
Okey dokey. Okay,
okay?
yep.
Who's seconding?
Who's,
I will second.
Janice?
Thank goodness.
Janice?
No, I am not taking credit for it.
Tibbetts, seconded, and
Oh, right, we have to take a vote.
Oh, all in favor?
I was waiting for it.
Still not in mode yet.
Okay.
Okay, Yvette,
Yes.
I'd like to continue with your director's report.
Oh,
At 9:30.
Oh,
I don't even know.
after her report, we will table everything else till next
You
month.
know, you could. I don't know.
No, we can't.
You can't.
Not one of my things. No.
Oh, okay.
okay, wait a minute, I just have to find,
You had the acceptance
Is
of
there,
gifts.
like-
yeah, go ahead.
Shut
I
down
just,
the meetings,
oh, there you are.
She's
Okay.
kidding. We're going to be
Where I
here
am.
till 10:30.
Yeah,
Okay. I sent you my report.
yes, you did.
Yes.
I have it in my.
So you need to vote to accept 2 gifts here. There's a donation of $100 to the Past from the Fells, from the
From
Merrimack,
who?
for the
What
Fells.
is
Yes.
this?
Oh, it's
This.
gorgeous.
Look.
It's a mansion and grounds, and you can tour it, and it's historical. And I think I'm going to go at the end of the
Yeah, I
month.
did.
Where is
Apparently I
it?
didn't stick it on my thing.
I
didn't know what the
it's
Fells is.
Lakesish region-ish.
Yeah.
Okay. It's Historic Estate and Gardens, Newbury, New Hampshire.
Newberry, wherever that is.
Oh, by the Society of Protection of New Hampshire Forest, that fills?
I just have the renewal sheet here.
So we got a donation.
You get a
of
donation from the
$100
garden
for the pass.
from the garden club.
Are
It's
we accepting
$100
it?
for
Yes.
the pass.
That's
I
the.
vote to accept
that-
it.
Yeah, I know what that is. That's.
Actually, I
this
vote
is-
to accept both.
Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to accept both
Second.
donations.
Wait, well, okay, a donation of 100
That's right
for the,
here.
yeah, I got it,
Okay.
right here.
The
And.
second one being the $70 for the signs.
Yes, $70 for sign holders. And Janet Krupp. I'll second.
Okay.
Karen
All in favor?
Reed. 5-0-0. Okey dokey.
Anything else about? I mean, oh, never mind. Okay, so Samantha Small took a full-time job, and I have her PAR. You need to vote to accept her resignation. And or you need to sign that. There's 3 copies.
Motion to accept with regrets.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Did we vote? I forget.
Yes, we just
Okay.
did.
Okay.
She had been an intern for us over the summer, so she actually received a pen already. So we gave her a bunch of markers and colored pencils and
Oh.
variation on the pen. Staff usually receive when they leave our employment, and because it came up in a question from Laura. Yes, she actually did agree to have an exit interview, which I performed. They're no longer our employees, so that you can't make them do anything, but she was agreeable, and she loved working with us. She learned a lot. You know, she was a student when she worked for us, and then she graduated, so she learned a lot of practical experience with us, which helped her get her next job.
Good.
Nice.
That's good.
So I mean, if you have any questions about this, the rest of the report.
July 4th.
Oh,
So the July 4th update.
Excuse me. I just wanted to say, yay, Michelle. 42 patrons attended that event. That was really cool.
The China
The
event.
China event. I thought that was cool. That was a lot of
That's a
patrons
good-
to come
That was a good turnout.
Oh,
to an
yes.
event.
Well, that was free food. That'll always get
Oh,
patrons.
that
I
was
still
the armchair.
It was good.
That was really great.
I was there. It was very good. She did a good job.
Those are really nice events.
Yes.
You know, they're
And to say you're welcome to Brittany for thanking us for sending her to the computers and libraries.
she had a wonderful time.
Yeah.
She had a wonderful time. That's where we found Tableau, the software for statistics. So
Have we purchased that?
yeah, we're playing with it now.
Ooh.
Okay, so I can segue into statistics or tell you about the July 4th parade. So we are, I've submitted the application. We're using grant money from DCU to hire a Blues Brothers tribute band because the theme this year is Libraries Rock for summer reading. So we're sharing the cost with Merrimack Parks and Rec Department for the band. It's an 11-piece band.
Wow.
They have the Bluesmobile. They have a truck with a trailer. The band is on the trailer
So they're going to march in the parade?
with us.
Oh,
Yep.
cool.
We're going to have a live band.
Cool.
And they're talking with the Rotary to see if they can play at the stage after the opening ceremonies. So it's a very nice use of their time, marching in our parade, going straight into the
Right.
stage. We have nothing to do with that part of it. That's not our cost. Anything, other questions about the parade? I mean, we'll have the usual. We usually have our banner, then the band. We have a vehicle for our waters or people who need to ride.
Are you having T-shirts this year, giveaways?
Not T-shirts. One thing that we wanted, what we're talking about, because I believe you guys already approved funds at a previous meeting.
Yep.
I had already purchased from the CSLP catalog program bookmarks that say Libraries Rock, so that was kind of an easy thing to tie in. But now that we have the band secured, it's, you know, we're looking at giving away fedoras to parade wearers, you know, parade marchers, depending on if we have a lot. I mean, it's going to be a pretty big group right now. You know, because sometimes we invite people to march with us, and shades, sunglasses. So I have to look at that just as a detail of, you know, what's the most feasible thing. We can totally hand out the bookmarks. That's an easy. And then I'll figure it out. But
So are the trustees invited to march in the parade?
well, usually you guys have a little subcommittee, so you have to decide if you want to have
Yeah.
subcommittee. I mean, Karen, you've participated in the past.
Yeah, I was expecting to do it
I
again.
don't think you need the convertible this year. You have a truck and a
Yeah.
all
Well,
that
she said we
stuff.
still need the water.
Oh, all right. We'll bring
Water.
that for the water.
So
Okay.
we're gonna. Who would like to be on our July 4th subcommittee?
I'll do it.
Karen? Anyone else?
A subcommittee of one?
I'll be on it with
You
you.
and I we can meet.
Okay.
That's not a big deal.
Sure.
All right, you guys meet.
Okay, that's fine.
You only need 1 or 2 meetings.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not a lot.
is the banner going to have the 125th anniversary logo?
No, we're not carrying that banner.
Okay. Oh, it's big.
It's, no, I can update you on the banners.
Okay.
Okay. Let's move on to the banner then.
The banner that we carry is the library banner, so it's like 6 feet across.
Oh, okay.
The other banners are going to hang from the side, the DW side and the parking lot side. We have 3 banners. This is something Jen Jobin worked on the design with Jen Green. the anniversary committee looked at it. They're fabulous. They have the Open Your World in the middle. These can be, the intention is to have them change out and rotate, so we could have one banner staying and then change out either one on the side if it's National Library Week or Library Card Sign Up Month or something like that, and just replace with a vertical banner.
When are they going up?
In the next couple weeks.
Oh, good.
You know, we kind of had to wait for the snow to clear. And then there's a little bit of back and forth with finalizing the design with Jen Jobin, and you know, she's doing that at her convenience.
Yeah. Okay.
But that should be.
What is the library doing to celebrate the 125th anniversary?
We're doing a lot of things, and they're all on the calendar. So I can't
Anything
list.
specific to the history of the library?
We have posters that are being finalized now. They go by, what's it called?
Decade.
Decade, thank you. They go by decade.
Oh,
And there
that's cool.
are some fixed topics, like here's the cost of groceries, for example, and then it's going to be the cost of bread is changing in this block. Things that happened nationally, things that happened internationally, but it's they're being finalized too.
And where will they be?
They will most likely hang, the last we talked about, I think they're going to hang in the stairwell and the lower hallway, but allowing for anything that might have to happen for summer reading or an art display that comes in, we're trying to reserve it for the posters. But that should be in the next couple weeks too.
Oh, nice.
I saw a mock-up last week and it was pretty cool.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Anything else? Windows?
Joanna and I met with a vendor. I don't have a quote yet.
When did you meet with them? When did you meet with them?
See if I would. I didn't write the date, but in the last
After we met.
2 weeks. It was before.
It was before the building committee met.
She and I have also met with a sign vendor to get a quote to replace the reader board with an electronic sign. I don't have a quote yet for that either.
Oh, okay.
So. All right.
Rest is in there.
So you've met with, but you don't have the quote. Oh, you're awaiting the quote.
Yeah.
Okay. And what did you say about an electric sign?
We met with a vendor last week. I thought I was going to get a quote yesterday or today for a replacement sign for the reader board. This is an electronic sign that would be the same size as the reader board. It has separate electric source already, and could be run from a computer, so we don't have to go outside and change the sign. But it you know, he showed us different versions, and it was like, wow, this is really great. The sign would work something like a PowerPoint, so you wouldn't have, like right now we have different lines of text. It wouldn't be like that. It would be, here's one event. How many seconds? Here's another event.
So it could actually have like a picture or something, huh?
We can have pictures, we could program it so it can do a separate thing for a particular day or a particular week. You could program it out for a year. I mean, it would be just an incredible
Nice.
product.
So love
and,
to see us get something like that.
Hmm?
I would so love it us to get something like
And
that.
we can take it with us if something happens to that end of the building or, you know, there's any kind of renovation or new construction, it can go with us. It's not a big deal.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't know, you're coming up with lots of questions that, you know, I don't know, you tell me.
I'm still curious, where did you find this person that would look at the windows?
There is a company that's already working with the town on a project in town, which is the highway garage, and so we were able to.
Cool.
Oh, what about the
They were in
granite?
town already.
I'm sorry, the granite sign?
I don't have any information on the sign.
Okay.
I did have under mine, or you can put it under new business statistics.
Hmm?
So I don't know, statistics.
Oh, statistics for the granite sign?
No, you didn't have
Topic.
New topic.
Oh,
it on the agenda, so I scribbled it in
Yeah.
under whenever I was talking, or under new business.
okay, please, yes.
Want to see these? Okay.
Well, I asked you what schedule you wanted to use for them.
You said quarterly. It was already talked
We
about
already
that it was
talked about
quarterly.
Okay.
Ah, statistics.
So this is the quarter, first quarter.
Okay, gotcha.
How do I be excused so I can make a phone call?
You asked your chair.
May I be excused to make a phone call?
Oh, I think what I asked you was what rotation did you want? So we'll start this, the rotation is starting with,
January, February, March.
for the statistics, because then we would alternate with the goals so that they're not all at the same time, that's all. I think that's what, the question I asked. I
I
said,
don't know.
yeah,
It's up to
okay,
you.
okay, never mind, go ahead.
So when you look at the statistics sheet, what we talked about today in department heads, some of these labels you may not be familiar with, so I gave you some descriptions, a little bit of context, some definitions, breaking out what these things mean.
Right, okay.
Yep.
Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, you did. You gave us like a whole little glossary here.
Now, you mentioned before that the statistics are gonna be kept differently than past years.
Maybe not kept differently, but, you know, right now, this is the form that's always been used,
Okay.
you know, and sometimes it's looking at annual to annual, quarterly, you know, month to month. You know, this is how we keep it. So, one of the things that Brittany found at the conference she just went to was a software called Tableau, which you can upload your spreadsheet of your statistics that you collect, and then, you know, the software will create a graph that can be then put on your website.
That would be good.
So,
On page,
and there's many, many, many different kinds of combinations of how you can display them.
on the back of this, it says novelist negatively impacts your statistics. Why is that?
How the vendor has changed their services in terms of their data.
Not sure what that means, but.
For some of the, like CD-ROMs.
I mean, the number's going to go down because of how they're presenting their items. So our numbers will go down, but it's not a real drop because
I
we
see.
still have novelists, we still have people using novelists. It's how they're using their data.
Okay.
So, do we even have any CD-ROMs right now in the collection?
If it says 1, does it say
Well, it
1 or
says
0?
000 for the last
That's
3
already
months.
been,
Yep, they're gone.
no,
No telescope, it says.
no, that, it just hasn't circulated, but that might mean that it's
I see.
been out for a while or,
What about other kits where, besides the telescope? Because there's lots of kits that go out. Where are they represented here?
let's see where she put it. I don't know where it is. I'll have to ask. I mean, there's some different categories.
Well, maybe next time she could put it on there.
Okay.
other meetings, under programming, what would that include? What's
Okay,
other meetings?
so if you
mean?
look here on your cover sheet, it says, other meetings are when an outside group reserves a room.
Oh, okay.
The adult programs have pretty good turnout. So,
Yeah.
with this, the item circulating, do we have the breakdown of how many come from our library versus how many come from other
If you look on your
libraries?
cover sheet, it will say CBC loaned, CBC borrowed.
Ah, okay. Where, I don't see that on here, though.
You do.
Oh, there it is, down at the bottom, there in the, well, middle. Ah. Okay.
Oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Compared to, at some point, it'd be nice to see like a year.
You didn't want to see, or you want to see a quarter?
We discussed that, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, how are you gonna compare this year to the past year?
Well, this is
I'm telling you
going
what you
forward,
wanted.
right?
No, I understand, but if we were to look at how does this year compare to last year, not saying we do that right now,
In
but,
our discussion about this, we asked for this, and then we said we'd probably come back with changes
right, yeah.
or ideas
Because
after we see
one
something.
report I had at home compared, so you could see what the changes were over the year, over the span of a year.
Yeah, but this is just the first one.
Right, I know.
The other question I have, I don't know, this, you could just say there's too much work to do this. Do we have a list of like how many paperbacks we have in our collection, how many adult fiction books we have in our collection?
Yeah.
So we can actually see, you know, what, how our collection actually breaks down
Yeah.
in this.
We have everything. If you look at your cover sheet,
Under everything.
it says the context is the staff routinely collect data on individual programs, resources, questions, circulation, etc. Etc. underlined 5 times.
Okay.
Okay. We're librarians. We like data.
Yeah,
We like to collect
Yeah.
data.
okay.
All of these, each department has a separate spreadsheet. We can run any number of spreadsheets about the collection activity through Polaris, which is our ILS. I mean, it exists. We can run it any different way.
Yeah.
When we're doing collection maintenance, we're looking at a reading report. We're going to run a reading report. How many times has this section of this collection circulated? We're going to pull the items. We're going to look at them. We're going to think about it. You know, I mean, we're collecting a lot of data.
Yeah.
There are certain things that the state library wants to receive from every library in the state of New Hampshire, and that's what I remind the staff of. We absolutely need to collect this stuff.
This,
that the
this
state,
what you've listed
a pic-
here?
No, the state doesn't want all this stuff necessarily, but there's some stuff that we just collect. But there's a form that the state library, you know, sends out a link, and I have to submit our statistics to it, to the state
Once a
in
year?
the beginning of the year, and then that gets published on the website, on the state website. And you can compare every library in the state to each other. And they have certain restrictions, which I made a note of at the top, where items like Hoopla, it's one usage equals one circulation equals one item in the collection, because Hoopla has thousands of items, which we're not gonna count that we hold thousands of items. It's just how is this being used, and that's the state guideline. So we're
Hoople's not
staying.
specifically called out on here, though, is it?
I have a spreadsheet that is databases. I mean, we have details of everything that we do in the library. This is how it's traditionally been collected for the board, compiled in one sheet. So you get kind of a here's,
Well, I think it would be nice to know how the databases are used. And also here, it's e-readers. We're not using those. That would be electronic devices now, wouldn't it?
But that's still something that was in a time period. You're in the middle of a fiscal year, so that's still something that existed. It's still on the list. Eventually, it will disappear.
Mm-hmm. And CD-ROMs.
Are
Right.
Blu-rays lumped in with DVDs?
I didn't hear you.
Blu-rays are lumped in with DVDs?
Yeah.
I don't see audiobooks on here.
Ebook,
Sound
oh,
recordings?
downloadable audio, yeah?
No, just, they have audiobooks.
Sound recordings?
No, audiobooks.
Would audiobooks fall under downloadable
I listen to
audio?
audiobooks all the time,
So do I. Love them.
but they're not on here.
It's sound recordings.
Sound recordings.
Huh?
It's
Sound
a sound
recordings.
recording.
That's an audiobook?
Yeah. Somebody
Oh.
speaks in and you listen to it.
Okay.
I mean, that was a guess, but.
I think one thing I would like to see are how are the databases being used, actually?
It's interesting, I'm looking at the database usage down here toward the bottom, and it drops drastically in February and then jumps back up.
Okay, if you look at your cover sheet,
Can I just say, we just got this tonight, right?
yep,
Yeah. What am I looking at with the cover sheet?
We're trying to.
changes in hours that may
February.
impact circulation. February's a shorter month. We also had weather closings.
You see that?
So,
Oh, that's,
I,
Oh, it's in the
I,
second page.
they had to close.
yep.
Ah, sure,
The other
okay.
thing with February
Weather closing.
is there's a school vacation.
Yep.
Good point.
Yes, there's a school vacation too. Wow.
So perhaps what we can do is mull this over until our next meeting.
Yeah,
And if there's any other statistical information we would like to see on a regular basis, we could,
Well, this is quarterly that we're
as I
doing.
understand,
Okay.
we could include that as well.
yep.
Okay, and you can bring that back to the next meeting?
And looking at the statistics is for just general knowledge, or?
Well, at some point, we'll be doing some comparisons to see what the value of the services are.
Okay.
What's working, what's not, that sort of thing, because that's where we spend money.
Well, I
it
think,
helps us.
the challenge with looking at numbers as equating to value, it's one little piece of a picture.
Of course.
So I don't know that I would make that statement, because you still have a narrative that we are keeping a record of, you might have a hash mark on, questions, reference desk questions, children's room questions, but what happened during that interaction can be any number of things where, the staff spent a certain amount of time with a particular patron, teaching them on a device, on their device. I know I spent 30 minutes with a patron last week on teaching them how to use Google Drive. So that's one mark. It's one question, it's one interaction, but I taught her a skill.
But a lot of time, yeah.
So there's other pieces to just the numbers. So what we're hoping is, rather than just looking at a spreadsheet like this or any of our many, many spreadsheets, we're going to be able to combine these two pieces for our public, and they can see, what's really happening, or a better picture of the library, rather than just circulation's
Than
up or
just
down, door
numbers,
count is
yeah.
up or down. What's happening at the library? You can see there's a certain number of programs that happen at the library, but, Janice, you just said, oh, that travel one was great.
It was good.
Oh, so we can combine this with evaluations, with interactions that, we're just recording, that someone isn't formally telling us, but we're making little notes on things. And then we get this really nice story. It's what's the story that these things are telling? Because you can look at it any different way you want, but it's not a complete picture.
Okay.
So really, the only thing that we haven't touched on is the NHLA conference.
Still have an appeals policy
Oh, you have an appeals
that I wrote
policy.
in.
Say again?
I wrote it in.
Okay,
I didn't see this until today.
okay.
In Laura, Janet, you have something
I have
else,
something
right?
too.
Okay, and that would be other.
Sure.
Would it be other, Janet?
Other, new business, other, sure.
Okay.
What is this? For,
We're going to over the appeals policy at the
Right,
moment.
right.
Then you have one more thing.
This is not a review, the staff hasn't gone over this, this will be later in the year.
Oh, okay.
But we had a complaint come through the board. So it was Rick, this complaint came from you?
yeah, well, it came to me.
Right. So, the first thing I think I just should point out is that you have a process that if someone brings a complaint to you from the public, this is the policy that the board in 2011 approved. So these are your procedures.
Right.
So, a member of the public who wishes to appeal an action or decision made by library staff may appeal the decision to the library director. Grievance must be made within 14 days of the action or decision and must be made in writing. I never received anything in writing. Director will make an effort to address the grievance within 7 days of the receipt. I never received anything in writing, so I can't address anything within 7 days. If a satisfactory resolution cannot be reached, this member of the public may appeal in writing to the board within 7 days of the report from the director.
I don't know if the person knew that.
This is on the website.
Yeah.
You guys should know it, because then if you get approached by a member of the public, you can say, we have an appeals policy and you should see it on
Which
the
comes
library.
down to what you and I were going to work on with the.
Right. So this is what exists already for you. If you want to work on particular
It's a good one.
script,
Oh, this is the scripts
yeah.
that we're
This
going
is-
to.
Yeah.
this is your policy of what our procedures are.
That's
There's
the second
also a policy, this had to do with the bulletin board. There's also a policy for advertising services that you approved in March.
Yeah, that one I remember.
Okay, but there's a policy that exists. There was a suggestion or accusation that the library was denying one thing and then scheduling a program. These are unrelated. If I had a complaint in writing, I could address that. But I do have a response from the staff person that's involved. I've reviewed it, I've spoken to him. I think all of his actions were totally appropriate.
Yeah.
Anything else about that?
Yeah, this is really good, because goes right with the scripts that we're going to do, so it works. Okay.
Okay, Janet, new business?
Yes, I sent it in in my treasurer's report under new business. It's the trust fund, the trustees of the trust fund money. For this year, we are to get, we have $2,604.54 in one fund and $3,318.94 in another fund, totaling $5,923.48.
Wait a minute, could you do that again? How much?
It,
You want?
yeah.
It's easier for you to
I was
look
gonna
at
say
it.
it's in. I sent it.
Yes, she did.
It's see where the red mark is?
I have my treasurer's report, but I have no idea where
okay,
it
just-
is, so I'll just do this.
Just-
Okay, I see that. Okay, yeah, this is helpful. I got it.
So that's from close of fiscal year 16-17, and we're to request that. I highlighted that we are going to expend that money in fiscal year 18-19, which is significant. But we have three options with respect to that money. We can request none of it, we can request all of it, we could request a portion of it. And then I made a comment that in the past, the library boards have had an agreement with the trustees of the trust fund and would withdraw only 90% of it, keeping 10% of it to grow the funds.
What do you recommend?
I would say, I would take 90%. So we'd take so it would end up being 5,300, 31 and 13 cents.
All at once or divided?
Well, it has to be divided because one comes from, what do you mean divided?
Don't you say here to take some now and take some in October?
Nope, that's something different.
Oh, sorry.
It's divided in a sense that it's two funds, so it would be
Oh.
10% less in one fund. I just kept it as together.
Okay. So you recommend we take it all at once and leave 10% in? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
What did I miss?
We're going to take it all of it at once and then leave 10%. That's why I chuckled.
Taking 90%.
A little
Take
oxymoron.
90%.
90% and leave 10.
Well, there's the retainer wall.
No.
names. Sorry.
These have purpose. These are sustainment of the library, children's room, adult fiction.
Yes, that's right.
This has
Yeah.
specific places that can be spent.
Can you, because of the specific nature of this, I need to know which one's A and B.
He didn't give that to me.
Okay, which one's Lawrence? There's names.
Right. I can find out. I will clarify.
No, because
Right, I know. Yep, you're right. But, yeah, let me write that down.
Okay.
Breakdown.
And when do we,
Oh, we need to
Receive
do
that.
this, we'd get it before the end of the fiscal year, but this Friday is one meeting, and then he has another meeting June 15th, and it has to be received before June 15th.
I don't know, it seems to me that I would certainly, number one, it's customary, so the library is used to getting this amount of money and kind of mentally allocates it to where it's supposed to go. And number two, that money is supposed to be spent in those ways. So as far as I'm concerned, between your recommendation and what the library customarily does, that seems to make the most sense. I move that we request 90% from the trustees of the trust funds, and as has been done in the past.
I second.
all in favor?
Oh, that's true.
That's true.
Shoot, yeah,
Is it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can withdraw my second.
Jana, why don't you re-propose?
No, she proposed it.
She made them. Oh.
Okay,
You make
okay,
that
you
proposal.
propose
I
and
make
I'll
the motion
second.
that we take 90% of the trustees of the trust fund
Interest.
interest, or income, actually, which total is 53,31,13.
That's the 90%, or we
Yes,
taking 90%
that's the
of
No,
90%.
that is the 90%.
Okay. So Karen made the motion.
Did you make the
trustee-
No,
motion?
I
Did
made
you
the
finish
motion.
it?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Are you going to second it?
yeah. Okay.
Go ahead and second it.
She did.
Oh, you did, I'm sorry. I didn't hear it. All right, all in favor? Okay.
All right.
Here, give this back to Janice. I have
There's a
it
part
some.
two to
There's a
this,
part
right?
2. I can bring it up later.
Okay.
I'll just hold it.
Yvette, was there anything else you needed to go over tonight? Okay. The only thing left, left on our agenda, we went to the New Hampshire Library Trustee Association Conference yesterday. All of us went, including Yvette. And it was a good conference. I think we all enjoyed it and learned quite a bit from it. The keynote speaker talked about 21st century library services, a lot to do with expanding the types of services libraries provide and developing libraries into community centers. The other programs, we all went to different breakout sessions about marketing. I went to one on marketing, about branding your product, and it was a very good one. What did some of you others go to? What did some of you others go to? I'm sorry, that wasn't well put. Would anyone else like to share what they attended?
I went to Managing the Money. That was one of them that I went to. It was very interesting with small libraries versus larger libraries, and who takes care of the money and who signs off on things, and how certain towns, like the town literally cuts a check and quarterly and gives it to trustees to manage, and it was very interesting.
Different. All towns do it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Anyone else like to share anything right now?
Couple quick comments. One in the marketing session that you and I were both in, what I found interesting, I made a note of, they were discussing the differences between active and passive programs within the library. Which,
Do you want to know what that is?
no, I know what it
Okay.
is. I explained it, but it just, they kind of broke down the need for both of them, and I thought that was kind of interesting.
We do that, by the way.
Yeah, oh, I know.
I just want to say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And both in the marketing meeting and in the other one that I think you were in with me, I didn't know the libraries did that.
Yep.
Both of them talked about instruments or some kind of musical thing, which Wilton pointed out they do have the outdoor, or they're going to have outdoor musical exhibit.
Next weekend.
They're going to open it within the next couple weeks. So I was actually, once they opened it, I actually wanted to take a road trip out, and I was going to go and see if I can get pictures for everybody, because I know we talked about that as like a dream list item, is if we had something outdoors, like a musical sculpture or a piano or something, we talked about that at,
Our retreat.
When we were
at the
brainstorming.
retreat as a wish list. So because they said they actually have that, I want to go and actually see it and take pictures. So I'll send them out when I do get the chance to do that.
Well, the good news is I think our library is doing quite well. We are certainly in par with even larger libraries in our programs and our activities and the quality of the services that we provide. So that's,
Yeah.
a lot of credit to Yvette for bringing us along in the last
Thank
3
you.
years.
It's been 5.5 years.
Well, 3 years and I'm 4 years maybe.
5.5 for me.
5.5 years to updating how the library looks, the feel, the collection, the programming, all the activities that we're doing, and so
The other thing,
Congratulations,
when we
thank
did the, I don't know if I didn't know the library did that. They asked for people in the room to mention, and I brought up our seismograph, and you should have heard the gasp in the room.
Yeah,
Everybody's
it
like,
was.
"Ooh."
particularly since we're a center for the
Yeah.
Geological Survey, aren't we?
Yeah, that brought up a lot of.
We are wired into the international network.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I meant.
Oh, yeah.
The one thing that they brought up, I made a note of that would be kind of cool: beer or wine tasting.
We can do that. We've talked about that in the library.
Thing, too. to talk about the the indoor golf too.
No. When we did the ribbon cutting for the seismograph, then we had talked about doing a champagne toast.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I went to training to get a liquor license for a one-day event at the library, and I spoke to the chief of police. He was totally okay with us having this kind of event because you have to rope off. There's certain restrictions you have to rope off. This is the bar area, and who's, all the different things that go in with holding a license. So I've talked to Brendan about it more recently because he's interested in having a humanities program that's about brewing in New Hampshire. So honestly, I don't remember the details of where he's at with this right now, and it's probably too late to think straight. But it's like, do we have it off-site? Do we have it on-site? If it's a taste, can we have a taste? That means you hold a license. So, we haven't had an event with alcohol yet at the library, but, I'm not adverse to it. I think it would be something our community, would like, especially if it was something like the history of brewing in New Hampshire, and if it was appropriate, not just kind of like we're having a kegger. We're not having a kegger at the library.
I'd be okay with that too.
Well, no, I mean, you could say we want to have painting and wine nights.
Right.
We need to hold the license if we're going to do a special event like that. And then it's a lot of planning because you go to the training up in Concord for this, but then you have to wait for the paperwork to come to you, and that's the part that takes a long time. And I think I got my liquor license the day after we cut the ribbon for the seismograph, so we just had I don't know, sparkling grape juice toast. But something we can do. Is definitely on our radar that we want to do.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the human library was brought up.
Oh, that was
interesting. Goffstown was talking about it, and then we were talking about it.
Not too many
as
libraries
well.
had actually done it.
No.
When they raised their hand in the room, and I was impressed that we had already done it.
Yeah.
It'd be good to have another one and get the word out.
We already had our meeting, and how do we do it again, and maybe have it when the library's open and just contain it to the clump room,
Yeah.
So I think people are very conditioned with what the hours are for the library, so for us to do an after-hours event,
Yeah.
it was a little bit of a challenge, but we want to try it again, too.
The other two things
sure.
that they had listed as things that other libraries do that I made notes of. One was a income generating thing. It was doing passports.
We're already
We're
working on that.
The other thing they talked about, which with all the trails we have in Merrimack, I thought might be a good idea to look into, would be like hiking kits.
Sure, we can look into that. I mean,
Bird identification kit
Sure.
or a plant identification kit, or for kids like a bug catching kit to identify the bugs.
one of the things that we're doing this summer is we're collaborating with the Michael Laverne. No, sorry, is it Michael Laverne? I think we're collaborating with the Conservation Committee to do a GPS teen squad, and some geocaching. So that's a version of that. There are still spots available in that squad, but.
You mentioned passport. I didn't realize you were looking into that.
Oh yeah, I brought it up.
Team that can go.
3 months ago.
Previously.
I didn't
Okay,
remember.
well I brought it up. So, and I've talked to the town department heads in Eileen's, the town managers meeting, and they were all really positive about it as well. Right now the Dover Public Library is offering passport services where, you can come to the library and have your passport processed and we send it out. And then the Wadley Library in Milford is also doing it.
Yeah, how did the guy explain it? He says having your library do passports is like a blank check to your library or something. Is that how he put it, for as far as income?
Oh, it's
Just-
like a blank check
Yeah,
for
he
your
said
library.
it's just-
He said it was a real
It's just
income
easy,
generator.
yeah, easy income for your library.
Yeah.
Is how he put it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
Yeah. So
But it's also incredibly convenient. Our hours are longer. Our environment is more pleasant. And this is the feedback I'm getting from Wadley and Dover, that their patrons really, 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 their communities really appreciate it.
The one other thing that we had talked about in our retreat meeting was about publicity for events, and maybe looking at that. However, I think because of the late hour, we'll look at doing that at another meeting and having a conversation about that. So, does anyone want to bring anything else up at this point? Given the hour, if it can wait till next month, that would be probably optimal. No? Okay. Our calendar, our next
Yes.
I'm
Our
sorry?
next meeting is June 19th, not July 17th.
Oh, gosh, I'm sorry. Why did I do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The book sale is June 1, 2, and 3. The annual meeting is the 1st for the Friends,
And the Friends have a meeting on 5/21,
5/21.
next Monday?
Okay.
No.
Or is it the
It's
Monday
next
after?
Monday.
Hold on.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, any comments from the press, public, or board members? I move we adjourn our meeting
Second.
at 10:15 exactly.
Do we have to vote on that?
Yeah, we do.
Call a question. The vote, you gotta call the vote.
Oh,
All in favor?
all in favor?
5-0.
All in favor, I'm sorry. Oh, I just heard it. Well, thank
That's
you. I'm sorry
5:16.
It was such a long meeting. But I think that they will speed up now that we have some of our more major